Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. Sunday evening. Football action has fully commenced for the day, so I thought let's check in one last time here before tomorrow. The primetime matchup before the Detroit Lions and Seattle Seahawks. It was a wonderful day of football, getting to watch the action across the sport. A couple of NFC West teams fell. A lot of good action to talk about and discuss, though, as we are having our final game finishing up today. But I think none more so than when you look out across the NFL landscape today about one thing that just stands out as much this year as any other recently. And this has been pretty much something you see on a yearly basis. And that is that parity is alive and well in this sport. After this day today, it would appear that we're going to have only two teams that haven't won a football game yet through 4 weeks of play. And then we're only going to end up with probably 3 games with teams having undefeated records still remaining. Buffalo's trying to scrawl back into this game right now, but they're down a little bit. And if they do fall, that would leave you with only 3 of those teams. And so a lot of parity in this sport right now. Looking at the Seahawks schedule, beyond this upcoming matchup into the future of this season, you only on the books right now, as it really stands, have like one team that's in that undefeated rank. Everybody is in 2-2 or worse on your schedules. It lines up for the future and how this will set up. So nicely set, the schedule for the Seahawks. We already felt that a little bit early on this season, but it would seem like that might continue, just as a basic thing you might see as a generalization from today's action. And that also, by the way, includes our own division, which we'll cover on here in a second. But today, right now, we want to talk about some developing news here that broke after we did our Wednesday roundup show in regards to the Seattle Seahawks. We knew that the injury situation was one that was a little perilous, but maybe now it has grown grave. What do I mean by that? Well, it was announced we got ourselves some inactives coming up across the board here for you. I'll post it in front of my face. You can see it big. Byron Murphy, we knew he was going to be out. Hamstring. Leonard Williams, ribs. Ouch. He's going to be out too. Can't even give us 10 snaps. No, he can't. He's out. Uchenna Nwosu, the mighty Nwosu, not able to return quite yet. We thought that return was today, but this next day, but no, not going to happen. Boye Mafe was the shocker. Mafe goes out as well in this one. As we were thinking last week, he came back. It was scary, I think, after the last game in the Patriots. When you watch the All-22, it's really freaky because the television copy didn't catch it as much, but he was really limping. Came back last week, was still highly impactful. Didn't seem like there was an issue there, but he isn't out. Here is kind of a last-minute guy on that front of it as well. And then we have Jerome Baker, who's technically questionable, but if I'm just going to go ahead and play the general trend here of where this thing's leading to, I'm going to make a big fat guess that he's probably not going to play on Monday night. So to say that the Seattle Seahawks on that defensive side of the ball are shorthanded is to undersell it hugely. And it is really scoped in on that defensive line, that front seven, as far as what is fully affected here. But I've been thinking about this since the news broke on this about a day or two ago. And I think that there are some things at play here. First, let's unpack a little bit of the why, and then let's unpack the how. First, the why they're doing it, and then let's unpack the how the Seahawks overcome this, because you have now recently hired the type of coach who could help out in this situation. Think of it like the equivalent of a offensive mastermind who has their competent backup coming into play for their starter. And he's able to carry the load partly in part because he's got such a smart guy over there helping instruct him and guide him to be successful. So we'll get to that second part in a second. But the first part of this, I think, is the part that can be understated, because it's the part that should then not allow people to freak out as much or get as maybe nervous or be as unsettled about the injury situation in general because of this. Like, is there something they're not telling us? Is it even worse than we already know it to be? I don't think that that's the situation. What you have here is the Seahawks are in a unique predicament. Last year, you had 3 games in 15 days, and it felt like the weight of that was heavy. It was just tough for those players to make it go. You can talk all day about their professionals. They just need to go out and play. But this is a whole new thing when it comes to playing NFL football and playing on this quick of a turnaround. They don't even do this in college. They don't do this in high school. This is something that I don't love, and a lot of fans don't love for this very reason, and that these players don't have a real ripe opportunity to go out there and get their body prepared for the next week. These guys go through car crashes on a weekly basis. They've got to go through all of those days of, the massages and treatments and all of that up, down, in between, and hyperbaric chambers and cold water tubs and all that you can imagine, try to get themselves just to where they can be just kind of about ready now and get the stiffness out for game day. And so you switch that down and you go from last year, 3 games, 15 nights, 3 games, 11 days this year, upcoming. Monday night to Sunday night to next Thursday. Not this Thursday, but the Thursday after. So that's part of what informs this decision making. If it was a playoff game today, tomorrow, Seahawks were playing against the Lions, would Boye Mafe be playing? Yes. Would Leonard Williams be playing? Yes. Would Uchenna Nwosu be playing? Yes. Would Jerome be playing? Yes. Byron Murphy, probably not. But that's the reasoning behind this. So it's not one of complete unsettledness as far as the injury is concerned. This has to do with load balance, roster management. And as you do look at the schedule, which I talked about at the top, setting up well for your opponents and how it's looking on that side of it, it's also set up really nicely as far as how you can align this little bit of this breather through the scheduling. And what I mean by that is that you set these guys down, you get them that extra rest. Let's say you come out of this with a win. You don't feel pressed on any of those guys if they're not really feeling good to have to then force them back against the Giants, who are going to come to your house in Seattle the next week. So now you've almost bought an extra week of time. You can potentially rest these guys up for what? The San Francisco 49er game on Thursday night. So now you have less of those guys coming off that shortened week, battered, bruised, and beaten, and now able to maybe match the Niners as far as not, at least we're maybe in a little bit more healthier shape, hopefully at that point than they are. Who knows? We'll see where that is, but I can see where the plan is on this, because then you have the week 10-ish bye after this. So the bye is still about 5-6 weeks off. You got a ways to go on that. So part of that's this, I think, management as well. Makes this, I think, a smart decision on their part to be conservative. You're 3-0. Yes, it'd be great to get this win, but if you get this loss, it's not the worst thing in the world considering the schedule and how it bears out for the Seahawks going forward through the rest of this year. So, smart decision by the Seahawks, but let's get into how we're going to address this, because you're down your 2 best pass rushers. You're down your best 2 inside best pass rushers, maybe your 2 best interior run defenders in addition to that on the inside, maybe your 2 best edge run defenders in addition to that on the outside. And so that's going to make this a little bit tough to overcome against a Lions team that already walking into this game learned off the back of 2 weeks ago, where they had Goff throwing 53 times, that we're going to run the ball. We got a great running game. We got beasts up front. We can move people off the ball. And we've got 2 dynamic running backs to make this happen. So that's all we're going to do here. We're just going to lean on this and take the ball a little bit out of Goff's hands to a lesser degree. And it worked. It worked against the Cardinals. We are not the Arizona Cardinals, as we saw them get boat raced today by Washington. We're a little bit of a different creature in how we're built in order to accomplish and set up to accomplish. I think we're still even better on our front than the Cardinals aren't, even though we're this light-handed. Speaks to how lean they are. But let's get into some first big point items I want to cover really quickly, and then we're going to get to some of the specific things within the scheme that I want to kind of show you guys on what I'm meaning on it, to kind of pair the two together if I can possibly do that. But I think that there's some specific things that Mike can do here, because whereas some might look at this as how are we going to weather this storm? How do you get through this? I look at this more as there's a little bit of an opportunity here for McDonald to have a little bit of fun. And let me break down exactly what I mean by that. A couple of items here I want to go through as far as level of importance that I think that should be at the forefront of how they can maybe address and overcome this lightened box. First thing first is going to be stacked fronts. Stacked fronts are going to be a big part of what I would be doing here against Jared Goff. Last year against the Lions, Seahawks didn't do a lot of blitzing. Defense got cut up for a second straight season. Then at the end of the game, you dialed it up. You took it from 0 to 10. So you took it with the corner blitz and Trey Brown. How often did we see a corner blitz from Trey Brown last year? Not very often. You dialed it up. It caught Goff off guard as well. He's sitting there going, I didn't see that on tape. He gets home, gets the sack, comes back the very next play, not 4 or 5 plays later, the next play later. You run a stacked box. You run double A gap monk pressure, I believe, in the A gap. 2 inside linebackers sitting over the A gap, over the cross of the center. And then you drop them out post snap. But Goff's the kind of cat, no pun intended, who will get himself a little bit head spun up when you start making him feel that pressure, when you start making him have to think. You want to make Goff think. If you let him go into automatic mode, cruise control mode, he can be a very dangerous quarterback. If you get him thinking, you get him moved off of his spot, things just like that seem very simple, that are a lot more difficult than they may seem, because the Lions offense understands his constraints as well, and they work around them. He knows what as well as does he. He knows what he is. He knows what he isn't. And he can have those goof moments, but overall he's pretty smart when it comes to how he plays, though again this year there's been a little bit of a dip. So you want us to me stack the box on him on a pretty consistent basis. I'm going to pair this strategy all together, so none of this is really separated, in my opinion. It all has a little bit of cognitivity, and this is what I just, it'd be cool if McDonald doesn't have to do this, but this is where I think he might be thinking here in his approach. In stacking the boxes, I think you're going to get a heavy amount also of the big edges, and I'm going to show a little bit of this in a second, but in this scheme, you do align out those edges a little bit wider than you may atypically align them, and when you got them big like that, they can not only set a good hard edge against the tackle that's typically having to deal with smaller, undersized guys, but they can also get downhill into the backfield a little bit easier, just powering up and bull rushing down, especially if they just commit to it from the snap. And this works out to help you out from a defensive standpoint a couple ways, but Travis Gibson, Tyus Bowser, and yes, I know Derek Hall too is going to be the main guy in there, but those guys flexed in with Mike Morris all give you a bit of a power edge sense to what they're able to do out there. All of those guys are pretty comfortable, maybe outside of Gibson, of dropping into space as well. And we saw Hall last week had a great hit out in space, and Bowser's got 4 interceptions in his career. So if you want to run those games up from front where you're coming from this direction, but you're dropping out of that direction, you got the ability to be able to flex that out with the guys off the edge here you're bringing. Now, they're not going to be your quintessential explosive, dippy, bendy kind of guys, but that doesn't mean that you can't use them then with those stacked fronts to compress down on that pocket and make Goff nervous. But you don't have to bring them all the time, though this is going to be part of something I do diagnose in one of my other points here in a second. But I think it begins with a heavy amount of stacking the box. You start with stacking the box to stop the run. Then once you've got the run stuffed, you can start playing with those games and blitzing, dropping out of it, doing whatever, play those mind games with Jared Goff. But this could also, I think, help you in that run stuff where already now you got guys down on that line of scrimmage, and maybe taking away some of those run reads for the Lions, maybe getting Goff to audible out of those run looks when he sees the stack boxes on top of it. There's a lot of benefits to this, in my opinion, and staying committed to it. The Hawks so far they've done a little bit of it, but on the scale of Mike Macdonald's stack box front of a 0 to 10, we've been at probably like about a 7. He's been able to just trust his front four. He won't do it if he doesn't have to. He's plenty happy with going, my front four is getting the job done. I'll just let him roll. And I understand. I'd do the same thing if I had what we had. This next point's really a big point to this overarching scheme from my standpoint and what the Hawks should do with this game. And that is that McDonald should be playing with house money here. Nobody expected the Seattle Seahawks to be 3-0 at this point. Not even Vegas with their 7.5 win total. I guarantee Vegas's 7.5 win total wasn't building into it with a 3-0 start. So no one really saw this coming. You have a very young team. You're saving up, as I spoke about the top. You've got a tactical decision you've made in trying to preserve your injury situation here a little bit. So that factors into this part of house money thing. But you're on the road with Detroit. They're going to go for hell for broke to try to beat you. They're mad about getting beat twice in their own house, so they're going to throw everything at you, so to speak. So you don't have to feel, I think, like this is a nervous game. You come out of this with a dub, who cares? So if you want to run those stacks, if you want to get a little bit exotic this week, if you're McDonald, where in recent weeks you've probably been tampering that down and being a bit hesitant to do that because you've got this new team trying to onboard your scheme, and you don't want to, kind of overload too much here, but this was maybe the one week where you open the faucet, you rip open the spigot a little bit, you let the gusher come out a little bit, and don't fear a little bit if you happen to get hit a little bit. You also feel like maybe offensively, if we do get down in this game, if we give up a couple of quick scores, we got an offense in this game that's shown over the last 2 years that they can go after this defense and potentially, be able to put some points up on the board, put them up fast if that's also what's needed on their side of it. But why not see if you can maybe get up on them early and really make Goff uncomfortable from the jump? Some of this is going to be in context with something else I'm going to talk about, which is a little bit more heavier blitzing than they've done recently. Seahawks earned about the 20s on the blitz rate, so don't have to play that as I think is conservative in this game as well, especially as you might have to now generate pass rush with a little bit of the lightened pass rush talent that you have across that defensive line. Next up, this is all going in tandem. Stack fronts, house money, play a little more riskier. Trust your lockdown corners. Your Seattle Seahawks corners and Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon are having as great a start as a tandem of any cornerbacks in this sport right now. They haven't necessarily been challenged in the way that Goff's going to be able to challenge them this upcoming week, but I think that these guys are showing that they're up to the challenge of being those kind of lockdown guys that you can sort of trust a little bit on the island. And I would roll this game out where I would have Tariq Woolen out on Jamison Williams, and then I would put Devin Witherspoon in on Amon St. Brown. Nobody has to really get moved around at that point, aside from maybe really Woolen being the guy traveling. Witherspoon will just line up where Amon lines up. And then what this allows you to do to me, if you kind of commit to that, is I look across that Lions team. They lost Josh Reynolds this offseason. That other receiver spot is one that maybe they're going to hope Tim Patrick can be the guy that fill in, that veteran role guy that come in and be a competent kind of third receiver. And I'm not talking slot here because Amon's the slot, but is that competent outside number 2 type receiver. And so they're looking for that guy that can be that. Maybe Patrick will be the guy that can come in and fill in and help them out. If Tim Patrick beats us in this game, so be it, from my perspective on this. But I would put those 2 guys over there, run those stack boxes, run a heavy amount of games up front on Goff, bring them a good amount of blitzes, trust them on the outside in those man-on-man situations against those line receivers, because I think that they're going to have some opportunities at this point to go eat themselves if that's where Goff's going to try to throw into, if he gets kind of overwhelmed a little bit in those kind of situations. But trust as much with, I think, some of your game plan and approach here, these outside corners and slot corner, that not to mention Trey Brown, that can do the job, I think, against these wide receivers. That 3-4 lean, what do I mean by that on this next point? I mean that the Lions, as I said a moment ago, are going to try to run this ball and go at your weakness. You got stabbed in the gut. It's kind of bleeding out. Get your hand on the gut there, okay? So let's roll the bandage around the torso, okay? And what's the bandage for me on this? Less of the pure 4-man fronts, more of the 3-4, or less of the 4-man fronts and more of the stack boxes. These are the 2 ways to me that you can kind of counter this up a little bit to reinforce the ranks in there. And this is a game that you see being played on a weekly basis with these NFL teams that are 3-4 that get pulled when they get into nickel into 4-man down linemen, right? So you go from, run down, offenses in a base look, 2 tight ends, let's say, and you go, okay, we'll go with our 3-4 look. But then there's really a quick a pull by many defenses to then get into that nickel with 4 down linemen. And what does that now become? Well, that becomes a whole hell of a lot lighter than the 3-4, right? It feels a lot lighter. It's maybe only kind of 1 man extra, but it's a whole hell of a lot of difference down there in the amount of traffic and congestion you can create with the bodies down there versus when you got those 4-man fronts, especially when you run these 4-man fronts like some of these 3-4 teams do, like we'll even run at times, where you get the 2 down defensive tackles in there aligned really tight, and then you have those outside linebackers standing up really wide. And that creates those natural gaps in there in that four down line. And Lions have the options at times with 2-way plays, pass or run. And if they see that look like a guy like Goff, you make it easy on him, you make it simple on him, he'll devastate you with that. He'll take advantage. He wants to go the easy way. You got some quarterbacks who always want to go the hard way. They're always going to push it, force it. He will take the easy way out if you allow him to have it. And that's a bit of giving him the easy way out at times. So I know that you can't live in 3-4 in this modern age. I know it can be a little bit dangerous at times, especially as how you can get carved up in the passing game. But I think that this is where you can really reinforce this down to where you want to walk into this. I think from McDonald's perspective, going on paper, this looks like the Lions can beat us in this game, running downhill on us like the Cardinals got run downhill on last week. Let's prevent that at the head of this a little bit. Let's make that a bit of the centerpiece on. Let's see them get into this our pass defense. We do have all of our secondary. We do have our safeties. We do have our corners. And they've had kind of the best start as a secondary at giving up very small amount of yardage through 3 games of any defense. And you have to go back to 1979, the Steelers, to find a defense that's matched this performance with a 3-0 start. And that just makes me go back to going, okay, so let's lean into that strength. Yes, we have this weakness and worrisome part here, but let's also reinforce the strength, trust the guys on the outside to hold up, and they should. More 3-4 looks from my standpoint of things. I spoke about this a second ago. This goes right along with the stack boxes. This goes right along with the man coverage on the outside. Let the blitz flow like a cascade mountain stream. Seattle Seahawks, I believe, coming into this week are about the 22nd blitz rate in the NFL. They haven't had to blitz, right? They're leading the NFL in pressures. Why would you blitz as a coach if you're leading the NFL in pressures? But you're leading the NFL in pressures because Boye Mafe's going off, Derek Hall's going off, Leonard Williams going off, Byron Murphy's in there having an impact. Yes, you need all those guys are making it kind of happen. Ain't just one dude or two dudes at the forefront of this. So you manufacture a little bit more into this week. Be willing a little bit more to help them out in this week rather than just trusting them to have to make it happen kind of on their own. I think that that's going to be a tall task of asking a defensive line that's down its top 4 best pass rushers, maybe, if we all get set, or at least maybe you would put Derek Hall in there in your top 4, at least, 4/5 of your top best pass rushers, not to mention, as I said before, what you're losing as far as in that the ability to stop the run. So a way to get around that, a way to accommodate that. We've seen Brian Flores do a brilliant job of this with the Vikings, I think, as I know that they got kind of took it a little bit today as the game went along. Some of that was the Packers were behind. They were just throwing it. But it is a good strategy at times to be able to overcome a little bit of a lightened load. And you've got the right kind of DC in the house to be able to execute the strategy. He's not just going to blitz where you go, well, we got no pass rush, blitz. You're built within your scheme to be able to blitz. It's within the schematics of what you run to be able to do these kind of things. You're not stretching outside of yourself. You're not leaving your identity to do this type of strategy. It's all within house, as they say. This part is on the offense, but this is a part that affects the defense, and Grubb's got to do his part. Grubby can't get greedy. Offense is going to be explosive. Offense can put up some points on this Detroit Lions team. Grubb is going to be very tempted to make it rain. He's going to be over there just like, let's go. We could just, I can just, hey, you guys heard about the hurricane down south? You're about to see the hurricane up north. You know what I'm saying? But this is a game or from McDonald's standpoint, even though I'm normally typically going to probably not put many chains or a leash on Grubb, I am probably going to pull back those reins just a little bit, not all, just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go Grubby. Let's make sure that we're staying with the running game. Let's make sure we're manufacturing some touches in this game to keep that clock rolling so that we don't end up in this game with some huge disparity in time of possession because we are light on bodies on the defense. So most weeks, I don't think you're as informed as much as the defense needing to be encumbering the offense a little bit. But this might be one game where I say, look, if we get down by points quick, I mean, this is how I'd roll it, is I'd run very aggressive fronts on Goff. I would try to stamp them out quick, try to put them out quick, try to take them out of the run game quick, try to put them behind quick. But if it, and at that point, lean to Grubb being a bit not super conservative, run your offense, just don't go hyper overdrive with it, don't go like 9 straight throwing attempts or something. Come back and make sure we're still accommodating in the run game, especially with Walker back in this game. And if that works, you can roll it that way. If you get behind, then you can throw it. And, if they start scoring a little bit on you for Detroit because they take advantage of your over-aggressiveness, they hit you with some open places on the field from that, then you got to come in and maybe push the offense a little bit harder at that point to try to carry more of the load on the day. But it doesn't have to walk in the door that way. And I'm not trying to take them away from their aggressiveness and what's made them really good. We've had back-to-back weeks with DK taking the top off the defense, so I don't want to pull back from that on it. But just that we got to make sure we're not also putting this defense in a day where they are really rolling light in this game in a pickle by that time of possession. We got to not put them on short fields like last week with the interception where you have a play call there where Grubb can easily just kind of play it the safe way a lot of coaches would, and where if you're building in the understanding that your offensive line's in kind of not the greatest of shape right now, we're in the shadow of our own end zone. Let's not have a 7-step drop on 3rd and 15 when they're pinning their ears back. Let's avoid those kind of silly decisions where we can not, put our players into a pickle as far as the decisions they then have to make on the field in the moment. So Grubby, can't get greedy in this game. Got to be patient. Those are the ways that we got to go with, though. Those are the main points that I think that we've got to hit with. So again, just stack the box, play with house money, play with the sense of just, look, we don't have to be tight. We don't have to have the necktie doesn't have to be squeezing the jugular. Okay. We can loosen it up a little bit, even unbutton that. You can unbutton it, Mike. Button the type. Go ahead. Play dangerous, Mike. Yeah. Oh, a little dangerous. Trust your lockdown corners. More 3-4 looks. Let the blitz flow. Let it flow, baby. And Grubby, just don't get greedy. Okay. Please don't get greedy, Grubby. From a standpoint of an alignment, I want to show you a couple of things of what I mean with the stack box stuff, and I won't go too far into this. It's going to be a pretty quick show today, folks, because we're going to have a very long week in store here where Monday turnaround is going to go very quickly to Tuesday. No weekend turnaround on this stuff. So this will be pretty quickly a pretty fast show today. Not as much Q&A today on that side of it. But want to show you a little bit of something I've noticed about our scheme that we do, and maybe other teams are doing this in the league. I'm getting just acquainted here now with this new modern iteration of 3-4 and the alignments of this McDonald defense and how it looked. I'm showing over my left shoulder for some that may be a little bit of unsure at times on this. I get questions about this stuff at times, and so I always like to do a little quick refresher, being that when you're referencing 0 or 1 tech or 2 tech or 3 tech or 5 tech or 9 tech, it's all in alignment position. And so you see on this board an alignment of the offense: tight end, right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle, tight end. So it's like a 12 personnel look. And what you're seeing across from that in those numbers is where you would have the proverbial alignment or the possible alignment of defensive player based on the defensive scheme they're being asked to, not defensive scheme, but the defensive play call. So you could have an edge, for instance, a defensive end in 4-eye technique, where they're across from that right tackle, but they're to the inside shoulder of that right tackle. If they're in 5 technique, we all remember the old Red Bryant roll. What was the old Red Bryant roll? I'm going to be on the strong side of the formation. He's going to be in 5 technique, meaning he's going to be on the outside shoulder of that right tackle. So he's setting that hard edge on that right tackle. He's right on top of him after the snap. The alignments give you the positions of where those defensive linemen are going to be. So atypically, 4 to 9 is going to be a defensive end to an edge. 0 to 3 is going to be a defensive tackle. So 0 tech is right over the center. That's where you're going to have that alignment in a 3-4 defense. And then if you go pure bare, you're going to have a 0 and a 2 and a 2, and then you're going to have 9 and a 9. Yeah. If you're doing the Coach Carroll defense of old, right? 4-3 under. Let's play this like, the right side here is going to be the strong side of the offensive formation. So then you're going to end up with your wide 9. You'd have a wide 9 on the back side. You'd have your 5 tech on left tackle. So it'd be a 5 with the left tackle. Then you'd have your 2 tech, or your 2 tech basically. 1 tech. Sorry, 1 tech. You'd have the 1 tech shaded at that point between the center and left guard and the old Carroll defense on the 4-3 under, right? And then you'd have your 3 tech, or the 3 over that right guard shoulder. So that'd be the old alignment. Now, what I wanted to show you this a little bit because I want to show you a little bit of what makes this a bit unusual in what I'm seeing from the current alignment of things, okay? Again, this is one little refresher too on this. This is atypically what you'd see from a 3-4 defense. So take note on the right defensive end and the strong side linebacker. Basically, just think of them almost like the outside linebackers standing up. Notice that they're both in kind of equal alignment to each other. Like he's on the outside shoulder of that tight end, but if he moves over to the other side on the right defensive end, basically the right defensive end is still going to be on about that outside shoulder, give or take a very small space. So what you see with McDonald and what he does here, in my opinion, is he stretches his edges out. So when we look at Boye Mafe and Derek Hall on this play, you're looking at them stretched out with an extra amount of width. Can you see how they've got Hunter Henry in a slot receiver role here, and Hall's aligned so far out that he could play slot corner in this defense in his alignment where he's at. So they've taken that extra space, because if you put a tight end next to 71, if you put an imaginary tight end right to that spot, imagine still how wide Hall is outside of that tight end if he was there, and there is no tight end there. Now imagine how freaky this is for 71, the tackle, as he looks at this situation. Because he's like saying, I got to get all the way out to the edge to meet that guy, this monster, who's going to have a full running start, by the way, because that's what this extra width does, is it gives those big edges that full start to come downhill. So you got it on both sides, that wider alignment than you might. To me, it's even wider than a 9 technique. They don't even have a name for it, by the way. Let's call it the 10 technique. So you got 2 guys playing 10 technique on both sides. Now we got to stress on the offense out the gate with the tackles, because they got to get out wide. And if you get offensive tackles driven out wide off their set, where they pull really far out, what does that do to the interior? Stretches the interior out. It creates gaps in the interior of the offensive line. Well, now we get to Problemville when you start doing double A gap mug pressure, which is what the Hawks are showing with the 2 inside linebackers here, right? Because that's what they're showing is that pressure. So this line's in their freak out mode a little bit here. They're in freak out mode because they go, well, oh, okay, we're going to be stretched out thin with those guys wide now. They may drop. They may come. Those guys are going to probably blitz up the middle. We got to play it like they're blitzing up the middle. So now we've got to drive all of our protection to the inside, and we got to hope our tackles can hold up on the edge. And then watch how it goes. And I've already broken this play down, so I'm not going to break it down again. It's a Leonard Williams sack. But what you see on this play, Jarran Reed ends up triple teamed. Everybody else gets a single block across the offensive line. I've noted that on the breakdown that we did about a week ago on this play. But where I want you to lock in is on Derek Hall coming off the right side of the edge here. And the pickle this puts the offensive lineman in and trying to reach to that edge, to climb out to that wide 10 technique. That can't get out there wide enough, and then forces him up in the pocket. And then if you're bringing pressure or anybody's getting pressure on the inside, they go and get that sack. But it's that wide pressure. I've seen it time and time again watching the All-22 tape on this stuff, where the wide pressure comes up and these tackles are kind of going, well, this is even further than I ever have to go. I don't have to get out this far. He's got to almost hit a third kick step to get out to the width there to meet Derek Hall. And then it forces the quarterback quickly inside. And it's that speed to power thing that you get with those bigger edges like this. And we can put this into place against the Lions here this week, where you just get them up to speed. You get the bigger edges into these tackles. Now, Penny Sewell's a handful. You're probably not going to do that to Penny Sewell. But maybe Conklin, they can get into a little bit with that. Still, I think a place where you use that stack fronts. Those guys in that play didn't come, if you notice. Those 2 linebackers dropped into coverage. But you got him uncomfortable with the protections. You got the triple team to Jarran Reed. But the power edge forcing down off of that wide sort of 10 technique thing is where I think they can continue to build on this, and just a little cool iteration, little wrinkle, I guess you could say, of McDonald's defense. One other play I want to show you with this on the same line. You guys remember in the Chargers game in the preseason when Derek Hall crumpled that tight end? I've got a short set up on my channel with McDonald describing the play, so you can find it under the short. Just Derek Hall, Chargers, and he just crumples the tight end. The tight end's coming back in a wham block. He comes off that wider edge, and that wider edge, like I said before, gives them that build-up speed, gives them that ability to get up to full speed so that when they get up to that collision point, atypically, when you're bringing a tight end back across the formation post-snap to hit a wham block, you have a defensive lineman who will get up, gets like one step upfield, and you guys have seen this cut a lot. They'll then just get smashed. I mean, just absolutely obliterated, because the guy in front of them that they think is going to be blocking them is pulling somewhere. So they go, ooh, they just left the door open for me. I'll come right in. And it's just, oh, the door's not open. Here's a tight end screaming at me off the edge to come hit me. And it's you've seen guys get injured on that stuff. For instance, Uchenna Nwosu had that wham block coming back around in the preseason. That was a low hit, dirty hit. But that's what they were doing on that play essentially too, was that kind of thing. So this is a very typical thing that you're going to see in offenses. So this is exactly what you have here with Hall off the left side again. And watch on this play. I'll run it a few different times, but watch on this play how he is able to just get an extra 2 steps going to get that build-up speed here. Just early part of his plays, watch out. That tight end's moving pre-snap. Theoretically, he's got a little bit of usually that time where he's going to come up and just be able to easily lay this block. It's not a block to push a guy like Hall off the line of scrimmage. It's not to try to get him destroyed off the line. It's to simply just neutralize him in place, to not allow him to break up the play like he kind of does, where he gets the penetration into the backfield. Played a little bit slower as well here so you can see it, because this is one where you got to kind of watch close. But it's that extra little step you give him to the edge to provide him then the manner to be able to then come out, see 1, 2, he's to the 3rd step by the time he's making contact, and he's driving that tight end back. Offenses are going to have a lot of their game off of that movement prior to the snap into that block, and that block's kind of it's a pivot point that has to be neutralized on the play before anything else happens, before you get any push, because you're probably going to run duo blocks at the point of attack. You're going to get a double team at the point of attack, and that's going to get some marginal push. But if the backside gets there, if that tight end allows that, like this play happens, you close down the play. You shut it down. And this is where, again, the alignment, I think, just helps us out. The Hawks have the personnel right now, not only with Hall, Gibson, and Tyus Bowser, underrated signing from a couple of weeks ago, who played with Baltimore before. All of those guys can do that here within their game and do it very well this week. So I would do that right up against those stack boxes. Fun little wrinkle, though, not your atypical 3-4 stuff you see, where those guys would run in a little bit tighter. McDonald can trust his run D to kind of hold up, even though he is sort of stretching that stuff up across the range here, so to speak. We did have some action here this week. I want to talk a little bit before we get over to you guys, and we'll talk a little bit of the chat. I got a couple donations I saw in there, and we'll pop over those donos here in just a quick second. Let's take a look at, though, just some of the action that took place here around the NFL this week. As we've got right now the Ravens up 21-10, third quarter, 9:40 to go, and they're just had a sack here by the Bills. They're trying to get back into this game. Still an earshot, still a long way to go. The Falcons, thanks to a kick at the end there, like a 58-yarder, I think, won the game at the end of that one. A really tough-fought game. Typical kind of division matchup of what you would expect from teams, and that's what you got today between them. The Rams fell to the Bears. Big-time news. The Rams go to 1-3 now. 1-3 Rams team that is looking down a very tough situation. Those Rams fans had just already penciled in this as a W. They penciled it in the offseason. They penciled it in 2 weeks ago. They penciled it in even after this Niner win last week. But they now fall to 1-3 with the Bears, who were able to just kind of eke out the win and do just enough in that game to go get the victory. The Vikings got up by a ton of points on the Packers. The Packers mounted a furious comeback at home, but the Vikings said, no, we are for real. They get out to a 4-0 start. The Steelers and Colts, another entertaining game out there in the early onset of things. Again, dum-da-da-dum-dum-dum-dum. The Colts organization continues to show you that they don't know quarterbacks, and they don't know. It's just befuddles me at times watching teams approach the quarterback situation. We got to see Bryce Young thing unfold here this last week, and it really just blows me away. I noted it to EJ this offseason when he was so hyped about Anthony Richardson, and I said, he's great, but you can't do this thing where you're going to really, as a young guy, want to lean on his ability to run the ball. You're going to do that too much, and you're going to get him injured on that, rather than playing the quarterback position and learning properly to play the quarterback position. I feel like Tom Brady touched on this stuff to a smaller extent a couple weeks ago in talking about these QBs aren't developed and how they've dumbed down the games, and so that you fall back on your legs at times. And he got hurt again today. As you guys learn more, I think, about the situation too and how he got hurt, and then they put him back out on the field, and they had him run a read option keeper after they already knew he was hurt with the lower leg thing. Dum-da-da-dum-dum. They did get the win. Steelers were not able to pull it off. We'll see what goes on there, if that's enough to get Russell back in there, as Fields did throw for 300 yards, had a couple touchdowns running too. So don't know if it's enough to get the Steelers. Seahawks strength of schedule goes up a little bit of an uptick overall, although it's the Jets losing, so I guess it goes nowhere on that because they still have to play the Jets. But the Broncos in the pouring rain, able to flesh out a 10-9 win. Bo Nix, 2 wins in a row. How about that? Eagles 33-16, or the Buccaneers 33-16 over the Eagles. Got up big on them early on, stayed up big on them. Eagles looked out of sorts, but of course down some weaponry, some arsenal. Bengals needing a win this year, looking down the 0-4 start. We're able to get a win on the road against the Panthers, and the Dalton revenge tour. The Red Rifle was not able to pop off today, I guess. So he did okay, 24 points, but the Bengals able to make it happen there. Jaguars falling to the Texans as the Trevor Lawrence anger will still continue to bubble, even though he threw for 345. Still had some kind of rough moments in this game. Just doesn't look comfortable back there right now. Hard to say what's going on exactly. The Cardinals got boat raced by the Commanders 42-14. Jaden Daniels looks amazing. He is, That guy's fun to watch and impressive to watch. You see him at 80% completion percentage leading the league right now, and he's doing so a lot of times making some pretty high-level throws. And slinging it in there with some velocity, using his legs at the right point, knowing when to slide at the right time of things. Very, very smart to see from him. Great from his maturation process, but he looks like the best rookie quarterback right now, maybe by a mile here early on. He's playing great. Patriots, man, they made it interesting. They were within 2 touchdowns late in this game, but the Niners were able to finally close them out. Niners had another special team snafu in this game. They just every week seem to have something go down that's weird on special teams. It kind of put the Patriots back into this game for a second, but they were able to do enough. Kittle back, Debo back, got them strong enough to keep it going. The Browns, boy, is that going to be an organization in painful shape as we go forward. They fall 20-16, and the Chiefs able to take down the Chargers in the limpy Justin Herbert, though the Chiefs lost a big time loss to the Chiefs with Rashid Rice getting carted off the field, as they're already a little bit, I think, kind of light with the receiver core, and that's the guy who's really coming on for them and developing as that kind of number one guy there for Mahomes. So tough too, because he caused a fumble when he got essentially injured. I know, and he got injured on Patrick Mahomes as they were both trying to make the tackle. Brutal. Please hit the like button, folks, if you could, for me today. I appreciate everybody watching. We're going to be on for a bit here with you guys, doing a little bit of Q&A. I'm not going to go super late tonight, though, because we do have a lot on deck tomorrow. And like I said, we got a lot on deck here for this week. So just wanted to kind of get the ins and outs. I wanted to cover a little bit of this with you tonight, as I thought it would be interesting. Damon Dice, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Feed Me More Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. Do we have a call-in this week? Indeed, I'm going to do the call-in on Thursday. So we're just going to do it during the Thursday night game. I was going to try this weekend, but it just didn't open up for me to be able to pull it off. So for members of the channel, we'll be doing a Thursday night call-in show, and I will post that on the community post. So I'll get that over in the community post very, very soon. Thank you for reminding me of that. Feed me. And thank you for the donation. Randall, thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate you. And thank you so much. He says, bro, get me up to speed. We need Mac to bring the scheme tomorrow night. Lions hurting too. It's a game of attrition as much as anything. Let's have it go, Hawks. It's a game of attrition. NFL shows you that, and you got to be aware of it, Randall. That's part of, I think, the decision-making here of holding some guys back, is that I'm big on this, where I think it's going to be very easy for some teams to get caught up in a little bit of, let's get the quick start. Let's get out in front. Let's just push these guys down to the middle right from the jump. Let's not, ease up at all. But there has to be a little bit of a long-term outlook in how you manage your team in this modern NFL. It's a new way of having to, unfortunately, kind of manage the team. And it's not fun. It's not great to lose guys during games, but I think teams are smart to kind of look at it this way, and understandable that it's going to have to play out this way. All these teams in the league are kind of dealing with their own share of injuries here and there and everywhere, and so everybody's kind of having to start to go through it. We're going to get through a quarter of the season here, and the good part with all these injuries is that none of them are season ending. You're going to get all these guys back. We'll see with Lucas for sure on what will happen with him here hopefully soon, but everybody else will be back, and theoretically at least to a full enough speed to help you out down, as you get down the stretch on that type of stuff. But I think it's just Mike McDowell going as much as anything. I touched on a lot of points at the top there, Randall. It's really just about being loose and free defensively, in my opinion. Your scheme is working here. If you have your guys at a moderate good spot of health, you're going to be able to handle just about any offense in the game. I'm not saying shut down any offense in the game, but you're going to be able to handle any offense in the game. You're at least going to get just about as many wins as you get losses. You're going to get your share of 3 and outs. You can trust in that when you have your team in its full allotment. So you're at a 3-0 start. This game is not going to be one we're going to look at that determine our season one way or the other, and making the playoffs, in my opinion, or winning the division or not. That'll come down to other games and other days. So it comes back to that phrase that I used in one of my points on this, Randall, at the top, which is you're playing with house money. You're not in this game to play it tight. The last time that I mentioned this house money situation was 2 years ago when we were in the playoffs, and your Seahawks were going into San Francisco, and you didn't have a healthy nose tackle. And I said, going into that game from a defensive standpoint and Carroll's standpoint, what do you You want to run your kind of just normal, we're going to line up our front four that's not going to get home and let them just come downhill as a front forward? You want to try to, bring up some of those 5-man fronts like I was advocating at that time. Like, go back to Sam linebacker on the line, get a 5-man front up there on that game. Go put some pressure up on the Niners. Show them a different look than they've seen from you. You're not going to have your healthy guys. You got Jonathan Abrams starting at safety for the Pete's sake. So they didn't do it. We didn't play with house money in that game, but McDonald's playing with house money here. He can, learn a little bit more about his scheme and personnel and what they can and can't do. He can try some things out. You come out of this game with a loss. It's not going to be a decimating aspect here in the grand picture of things. So that's really the bottom line of it for me, Randall, is just let it go. There's some games where you might have to play a little tighter, a little closer to the vest, a little bit more of let's play this conservatively. Let's just trust our guys. Let's just let the game kind of unfurl. This is one of those games where I think you can be a little bit more of, we know Goff gets uncomfortable if you do this. We've got the ability to do that. We haven't had to do that, but let's do it this week. Thank you, though, Randall. Appreciate the donation. Niners didn't look good today, says CJ. Yeah, they didn't look great. I mean, and that's definitely a Patriot team that's not going to win probably more than, 2 games on the season, 3 games on the season. They're at home, are the Niners in that game, and they were able to, their stars were able to kind of make the plays in that game a bit. And Juwan Jennings is really coming on for them, really strong as well. But getting Kittle back, he made an amazing play from the back of the end zone, and Debo took the top off the defense, and having those guys back helped, no doubt about that. But they didn't look like world beaters, that's for sure. Max Bailey, how you doing? Nicholas B, is Mafe really not playing tomorrow night? He is out. Yes, sir. Polly says, good to see everyone. So ready for our turn. Let's go, Polly. Prime time. Matthew says, only 20 likes. B and Pumpkin deserve more. Hooah! Please do hit that like button, folks. It does help this channel out. Helps me show up on the old algorithm when you do it. It helps me get more subscribers when you do it. It's kind of a big deal. Dowsker says, maybe we can combine both our O-line and D-line and make one good one. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. Fink, thank you. Fink, thank you for subscribing, answering that call. I appreciate you for doing that. Matthew Glenda says, I doubt Goff could challenge our defensive backs. He's not a guy that throws with usually a lot of anticipation. He wants to see it open. He's got the good arm strength to get in there. He's got the good accuracy to get in there. He's got a pretty free and easy delivery overall. So, if you put him in that point to be able to do that, he's going to be fine. If you can tighten down the coverage, I think if you run some of these man concepts on them at times, I think you can work that. I mean, you can even run the man con. To me, you can get even Woolen just running man on the outside, and then you can have Witherspoon sort of cinching up with the linebackers on St. Brown, because Goff will also have a tendency to laser lock in on the targets he wants to feed and work. He's not necessarily going to sit there and pepper it all around the field a little bit where you're going, oh, he's hit 8 different receivers on 9 throws. No, he'll sit there and throw it 7 straight times to Amon Brown if you let him. Just like back in the day, he'd throw it 7 straight times to Cooper Kupp if you let him. Hi D, 12s for life says today's games were freaking insane. It was a really fun day of watching football. It really was. Those games were, I had red zone on one side. I had an active game up on the other, out of the other corner of the eye, and a lot of tight games, a lot of close games, hard fought. You got the good divisional matchups that always carry a little bit of extra intensity to them. Games going down the line. Boy, the Packers sure put the fear of God back in the Vikings, who seemed like they had that game firm in hand about halfway through. And Love conducted a drive at the end that just shows you, to me, why he is a scary quarterback if it all comes together for him. Lion Syndicate in the house. What's up, Lion Syndicate? Thank you for doing the Behind Enemy Lines this week, folks. If you haven't already and you liked what you saw in that Behind Enemy Lines, please do remember to go there and sub on up to Lion Syndicate. It's so kind to hang out with us this past week and chopping on up. King Tay says, key defensive line pieces are out. Are we finished? I don't believe we are. I think it's an uphill battle, and I'm not putting money on us right now as far as winning the game on the road. But I think that, as I say, the comparison I make to this is like that offensive mind. You give Kyle Shanahan a backup quarterback. Can he still make his offense work? Can he still put up points? Yeah, he can. It's part of the nice aspect of having a real brilliant-minded offensive head coach. does the equivalent work to a defensive-minded head coach? And part of the reason that the Seahawks have been so dominant to start out, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that they are just so talented and good naturally. That McDonald's walked into inherent this amount of this good of talent. Some of it's also the lighter schedule. It's all a bit of a factor, but he is the coach that I think can do that. Last year, there wasn't a preeminent defensive player carrying the load for that football team. He got a career year out of Jadeveon Clowney. He got a career year out of Kyle Van Noy. Got a career year out of Geno Stone. And that's where maybe he's got the ability to do some helping here, some manufacturing here. But we'll learn. I think that's where we're keen today. We'll learn a little bit more about McDonald in this game on that. Nicholas says, let Goff try to challenge our defensive backs. He'll pay for it. My prediction is Goff throws 3 INTs to Spoon, 1 to Woolen, and 1 to Jenkins. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. Let's go. I'm with that. I am with that. HG says, I couldn't help but be blown away watching Red Zone. 4 games, insane games at once was a trip. I love Red Zone. I do. Especially for me now. It's like I got the one other extra. I was watching we had the early on game, the Rams game, and then watching Red Zone on that, and then watching the Niner game, and then flipping that between that and the Cardinal game, and then having the Red Zone on. And yeah, there was some really just great action. I love Red Zone. Especially a day like this where you're not really nervous about the Hawks game. You're kind of just laying in the cut, relaxing. It's tomorrow. We'll be all right. Yeah, Susan, they can run the ball well. I'm legit worried about it. No doubt they can get downhill on this. And they're committed. That's the other part of it, is that right now, some of those running teams you have, offensive mind like Ben Johnson, they'll naturally pull away from the run. They just want to pass. Offense coordinators love throwing the ball. But last week with the success they had coming on the back of not having as much success throwing the ball 53 times, I think we're getting a steady dose. Steady dose. Dune Moose, the belief in themselves is higher than it's been in a decade. Our next man up is going to hustle, and we're certainly not going to play without max effort. The outcome can have playoff ramifications. Definitely think you're going to get an intense game. This isn't going to be, this is where the benefit I think does come in, as you come in maybe lightheanded on this dude, where if it's a 10 a.m. game, you're like, oh, lightheanded, and you got guys filling in, 10 a.m., is everybody going to be ready to roll? This game's going to be prime time. Those backups are going to know all the lights are on them as well. Great opportunity for them to start to, re-solidify themselves in here. A guy like Bowser or Gibson. In Gibson's case, the real first chance to be on a team that's, winning and kind of able to do some things. So, be good. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I think you're right. I think there's a lot more of a belief than ever right now in the ability of this team to get this done. That we've got the horses, we got the brain power, we got the front office. AI says we're going to find out what we have in Mike Morris tomorrow. Everyone needs to step up and play clean, no turnovers and minimal penalties. Indeed. Indeed. I expect you to see a lot of Mike inside, outside tomorrow. And big part of what he needs to be is at the forefront of this, and his ability to stop the run, helping out in that. Because I'm guessing you're going to probably keep Derek Hall as much as in for pass rush situations as you can, and take advantage of the big edges that you can have, that you do have, that theoretically should be able to set those hard edges and force everything back inside. But Mike's going to be on display. Elena, how's it going? Lions want to keep it on the ground and then hit us with the Lions want to keep it on the ground, then hit us with the screen game. Indeed. Yeah. A lot of that kind of stuff will go on, I think, too. That's one of the dangers of blitzing, of course, too, is that that's where they can hit you with the screen game on the other side, and then you get really, really dinged on that. So something to be worried about with it. Chris says, interesting to see if they can establish the run with Ragnow. I think Skipper has rib problems. Yeah, they've got one lineman who's going to come in kind of Skipper's finds as a lane. Is he? I thought there was one guy they had coming in that was having a little bit of some issues, but Ragnow's a big loss. There's some interesting numbers out there when you look at the difference in this Lions team from when they have Ragnow in to when he's out, and how productive that Lions offense is. Very much a guy I think that you could say is a focal point in certain respects. As much as you can say a center is a focal point, he's one that I think you could. Indeed, Nitro last year, some of that Lions difficulty with the Ravens was the injury situation the Lions were walking into with that one. I think McDonald schemed some good stuff up too. And we learned, you go in that Ravens stadium last year, they were a buzzsaw. Well, we fell on that board. So they did too, but some of it too was them also scheming up really well. Bit of both. Jordan says they'd be up 28-10 right now if Lamar didn't try to be cute and hurdle someone. Yeah, the hurdle's kind of a move that I know it's cool to see, and it's going to always go into like a little ad spot and stuff, and you put it on your highlight tape, but are hurdles really worth it? Saw last week, Quandre Diggs caught a guy, funny play where the guy tried to hurdle Quandre Diggs, which is so disrespectful because Quandre wasn't even squatting down. And he's on his tippy toes, man. He still said I can clear this. But Quandre caught him. Quandre had to just do a little baby leap, and he caught him right up there because he didn't go down and Quandre didn't try to go down to the ankles, He stayed up kind of high, and he caught the guy. But is it really worth it to hurdle? Like, you jump over the guy, and then there's another guy right behind that just lights you up. It's cool. I get it. You got a good vert. But is it really necessary? Jordan says Carr's definitely drafting a quarterback after this year. Yeah, Kyler didn't have the best of games, and you hear the Cardinals, and a lot of people talk about Kyler with, doing the roundtable especially, it was like all three of those guys in the roundtable were like kind of pro Kyler guys. Like, he's all right. I'm always kind of like, oh, he's okay. That Washington team today just ended up scoring so many points so quickly, and they had a key decision to the Cardinals at halftime there, instead of going for the field goal to go for it. And they ended up like having to dump their running game and ask Kyler to throw the ball over the field 24/7. He can't do that. Like you take that running game away from that Cardinal offense, and it's a different offense. And that's some of the limitations of Kyler. But I don't know. I think that I'm not disagreeing with you that they could do it, Jordan, or that maybe even that'd be the smart move to make. I think what they will do is go back to the defense, though, super heavy, because that defense right now is they have nothing on their front seven. They may have literally nothing right now long term on that front seven. It won't let me hit the like button. Damn it. Stupid technology. Nicholas Flacco, old ass, tearing it up again. Probably will, man. Yeah, he might. Boo, Hawksnest. I was watching AZ Sports Fan post game. He's not happy with 6-year Kyler. I think his Geno prediction was because he's jealous of good quarterback play. Yeah, they build Kyler up to me just a bit into something that he isn't. And it's not just them out there with Arizona too, Boo. I just think Kyler gets sometimes a little bit of a pass as a player where people put him in this spot of things. And I go, I don't know if he's quite there. I don't think he's a bad player. And I don't think I think he can help. I think he can get and do some things where he can get you into playoffs. The guy can get you the promised land. Can he get you in a conference championship? Can he bring you from behind consistently? Can he, if it's hard on him, can he do things? I don't know. But yeah, they were all sure on the round table that Kyler was better than Geno. And I kept coming back to that going, really? How? The one year, 3 years ago for a team that threw the ball all over the field and didn't run at all and ran spread but they're going to probably sour on him here because he's going to have to be asked to do this load throughout this year too, man. That defense is going to continue to give up points. That offense is going to continue to have to go tit for tat. I mean, a little bit like our offense might have to do this week, where you have to score for every, because that offense is going to keep just running around the lap. You got to run with them. And that's hard to put that Cardinal offense in that point. They can be explosive, but they're an offense best suited to be able to really be balanced with the run and the pass, work off the play action. And in my opinion, let's just say it, limit Kyler Murray's passing attempts over the course of a game, especially when it comes down to throws pushing the ball down the football field. Slated for, I got chewed out for saying we should rest our injured players for upcoming Niner games. They wanted us to rush those injuries for tomorrow's games. Clearly, Mike sided more with me. Well, you're a smart man, Slated, and I share your feeling that this is the smart path to go with. It's no small thing. 3 games, 11 days. Back in the NFL 2 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd play 2 games in 14 days. Now I'm playing 3 games in 11 days. Think about that. You gotta work around that. Say nothing of taking the temperature of the moment. We're 3-0. We're on the road. Tough game. We've got a kind of winnable game coming up against the Giants at home here at the end of the week. And then we got the Thursday night game against the Niners, quickly pivoting back around. You got to take into account, Slated. You have to. It's to not would be silly and to not really risks, to me, making these injuries worse and having a team that's, maybe you got your 10, 11 wins by the end of the year, but then you're wore out getting there. You got to pick you don't do it throughout your whole schedule. There's days where you're going to have guys tough it out and fight through injury, but if there are other games in certain times of year, we got to look at it and go, okay, well, let's play this smart here in this moment, considering this, that, and the other. And I think our Seahawks are doing that. Herbicide, Flacco looked much better than AR. It's all back to my initial point on that, to me, Herbicide, which is that you drafted AR and the pull is to put AR out on the football field and play him because he only had 13 starts at the college level. I have sympathy for the fact that he didn't have a lot of starts at the college level. It's being proven now time and time again for the most part, where it's very rare that there's, for the Jaden Daniels, you've got, Bo Nix doing okay out there with it. They've got actually the offensive line to help Nix out. They just don't have the playmakers out on the outside, really, on that side. Caleb doesn't have as much the offensive line, but you can see with him, he's struggling at times to process in the pocket, even when he does have time. Let these guys sit. The rush to get them out there. So you can save your job. It's not what best for the player overall. And I think that this is the common thinking is to just do that. No questions asked. That's just what you do. No questions asked. In my opinion, it's being disproven more than it's being proven that that's the right approach. And you might get 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in a given year, and you might get 1 CJ Stroud, or this year get 1 Jaden Daniels. Let's keep an eye on Jaden through the year, by the way, because one of the big worries with him is about that health situation and if he can hold up through the whole year with how he played. He was great today about protecting his body and not putting himself in troubling situations to get himself injured. But that's going to be something to pay attention to with him as well. But to me, you should be sitting guys. Richardson this last year should have been sat, maybe even sat this year. Because I think that the other thinking with this goes, give them the time to really learn behind a smart vet who can train them along as they're, you're learning as the guy's doing it. And, it's not the way it goes. Teams don't do it around the NFL, but I think it's stupid that they don't. I understand how talented these guys are, but the game is so hard and so complicated, and there's so much for a quarterback to do. And that draw with these young quarterbacks, especially when they're mobile, is to go back and do the Washington Redskin thing that they did with Griffith, where Shanahan had a whole tried and true offense, an NFL offense, honed off of the West Coast offense of Bill Walsh. And you end up starting to bake in all of these Baylor concepts from Robert Griffith into your offense at that point to modify to the running quarterback. And in doing so, you started to leave some of the more advanced concepts behind with what you asked the quarterback to do from a passing progression standpoint. I wonder if the same thing happens here a bit with Richardson going down this road with it. Still have Jones. Tony said Borges, Silva in the house. What's it, Tony? He says we still got Jones, Reed, Hankins, Gibson, Hall, and Morse. Should be fine. I was going up through last night, and I was collecting through, just looking through some clips here for some future videos. And I know last week we had Jonathan Hankins as our underrated hero of the week last week, and how he held up after everybody went down, and he was stout against the run, and not just stout where he's holding his ground as a zero tech, as a nose tackle, but he was getting out there and he was attacking as well. Like he was attacking behind the line of scrimmage. I gotta say, watching the tape this year and went back and looked through the Broncos defensive cut-ups, went back and looked through the Patriot defensive cut-ups, Hankins has been a factor when he's been on the football field. The play you saw from this last week has been there as well when we have brought him out there. We just haven't needed him out there as much because there have been other guys to roll through there. But Hankins has been a very good addition to this team. I know he's going to help this week. He will. Varman says, I put 200 on the Hawks. Am I finished? I mean, we've got the explosive offensive chance, and you got a defensive coordinator that can scheme around some of this stuff. So you're in this. You're certainly in this. But I don't love being down, 5 of our top 8 best front 7 defensive players. I think if you did this to most NFL teams, I think if you did this to probably 31 other NFL teams coming into this game and you said, okay, we're going to knock out 5 of your top 8 front 7 guys, I think that's going to be probably a loss for about 26, 27 of those teams, if they're suffering that, if not more so. So the odds aren't in our favor, man, but I hope you win. Not just because I want to see our Hawks win, but I don't want you to see you lose the money either. Tony, has Brian Branch been ruled out yet? I've seen he was doubtful. I don't believe he's been ruled out as of yet. They go through that concussion protocol, which is kind of a daily check-in thing, I think, that they got to do in running tests and stuff. But nothing has been, I think, fully determined as of yet on that. Mythic says this is a statement win. This is the week to do it. Well, you saw the Vikings out there against the Packers on the road. A Viking team that's been kind of, for the most part, owned by the Packers in recent years. They've had a couple moments where they've gotten back at them, but certainly better than the Bears, if you know what I'm saying. But they came into this game going on the road against the Packers. Packers getting back Jordan Love. And I thought that Viking team was flying all over the football field. They played like they wanted it. They played like they wanted to make a statement, and they did so. They came out of that game undefeated, and they did it in Green Bay. You don't win in their house like that. Love wasn't maybe at 100% just coming back and all that other stuff. Certainly that's valid, but doesn't, to me, take away anything from the Vikings. Win, and we can do the same, Mythic. You go in, you beat the Lions, you go 4-0. You got the Giants coming in your house the next week after that. And you're looking at that thing and you're going, ooh. Then we start getting greedy. Then we start getting really, really greedy. All sparkable. 4 defensive linemen and actives, and I'm afraid Goff's going to feed tight ends. We are struggling in them so far. Tight ends have been problematic. They have indeed. And yes, especially if Laporta is able to go and be typical Laporta, because he's got a couple of injuries he's fighting through. But I think your bottom line fact is the bottom line fact here, which is that he will feed those tight ends. John says, I got a bad feeling about tomorrow with all of our injuries. Feels like the offense has to have its best game in the season. Certainly you can make the argument, Sean, that the defense has picked up the offense in a couple of the games this year and given them the time to find their footing. Specifically the Broncos and the Patriots game. This would be a game where you'd love to see the teamwork make the dream work, where, you pick us up one week, guys, we got you this week, Oh, you're a little bit short-staffed this week. It's okay. We'll put up 45 this week. You sit back. You're cool. Have some iced tea. Don't forget the umbrella. AI says NFL Red Zone kicks ass. It's the only way to watch nonstop action. It's so fun. It's so good. I really love it. I like it too when I've got access to all these other games too, where you can just sit there and you're watching that, and if there is a game you want to stay on, but then have it there, you can flip on that game. And I was in an NFL Henneman. I'm just in there sipping coffee, legs up, just going between the two. And then you get the Rams losing, and then you get the Cardinals losing, and you're like, this day is amazing. Niners were sweating a little bit in that for a second too. It was almost an unbelievable day. I didn't come out of this week with basically a 2.5 game lead, 3-game lead. Deviant says, are the Vikings really the best team in the NFL? Well, I mean, if record is to go off of, then they would be. I think that they're not by the eye test of things at this point, but I mean, look, Packers were one of the stronger teams in the NFC. They took them down. NFC East, NFC South. It doesn't look like anybody's really a juggernaut from either of those two spots, right? And Kansas City doesn't look necessarily like, I know they're 4-0 now, but they got to take, I think, advantage of the fact in this game that the Chargers were down some players. Herbert was really gimpy on that ankle and nowhere near 100%. And so they've gotten, I think, a little benefit from that. I don't think they're quite as strong. I mean, you could maybe give them the tip of the cap, all things being considered, and how they played. The bottom line of is it, quite frankly, if you really want to, I mean, we haven't had the competition level yet, so we'll learn after tomorrow in this one. But, if we won tomorrow, I'd say that we'd have as strong a case as anybody to be made on that one. See what goes on with the Patriots game or with the Bills game tonight. But you take down the Lions on the road tomorrow night, then I think with how your defense is played, how your offense is played, as good a special teams unit as you put together, hard not to give a bit of the early season tip of the nod at that point to us. Not expecting anybody will. All Sparkable says it's going to be another shootout. Every time we face off, we have reasons to shoot for shootouts. Gino's going to have to show McDonald what he does in prime time. I love it, man. Yeah, and the offense going to have to carry some load here. Good news is we talked about injuries, and Ragnow is down, but you have a Detroit Lions team that's down a really good run defender in their linebacker in Barnes, who's out in this game. If Branch comes out, you can't imagine he's going to be at 100%. He hasn't been probably working out much this week as they're trying to get him back. Aleem McNeil's going to be dealing with a little bit of gimpiness there. Levi Uzurike, kid out of Washington, has been dealing with some stuff with on his end. And Zoli's coming back, I think, just from the concussion protocol. Last week, their first-round pick was gimpy over on the sidelines. He was out for a little while before he was able to come back in. I think, though, they're in a little bit of a better health situation and overall standpoint, being the Lions. I think that they do have a good amount of medical tape they're coming in. On the wrapped around the leg, wrapped around the arm, few fingers. They're not coming into this just, a picture of health on the other side of it. So there's opportunity there for the offense. All Sparkable 8-game Pentacast, all in red zone last year. Oh my God, it was insane. It's so awesome. It's basically man heaven. It really is. And Elena, I'm worried about the D-line getting gashed tomorrow for sure. Worn down and gashed is a big concern. You don't want to let it play out like that, but the Lions are going to try to make it play out like that. Jordan says, if the Ravens hold up tonight and the Titans win tomorrow, I win $1,000. Ooh, let's go. Titans got to win tomorrow, huh? Okay. PJ Walker, though, they're just going to run a lot of read option with PJ. Orchie says, Brandon, I took your advice and I got the YouTube Sunday ticket. It's pretty good a deal, actually. Thanks for mentioning it. Out here in Hawaii, it's tough. Not missing a game this season. Yeah, it is. It's brutal in Hawaii. I can attest that too, War Chief, where I know back in the day, even with it, because it would be in the, you'd be in a condo. Condo couldn't do DirecTV, so you couldn't get the DirecTV package. So now I got to go into a bar every week if I want to watch the Hawk game, unless it's locally on TV. But yeah, it's good. I like it. It's worked really well for me. I've been happy with it. We did a couple broadcasts off the YouTube with me doing this play-by-play, and playing doesn't seem to be too far behind. Clear, good connection, and I think for the price, I'm fine with that. You let me basically have access to every game at that point for the 400 marker, and then I'm not mad about that. I just wanted to have the 1 point of being able to online go get it somewhere versus having to get a dish. I don't want your damn dish. I just want this thing. But glad it's working out, man. Elena says, we aren't beating the Lions with that run game, with our D-line getting worn down. It would be different if it was just Goff passing. Potentially, Elena. We'll see. We will see. Definitely worried about it. The Snail B, I want a Ashton Gianti in the draft next year. Have you had a chance to watch him yet? Oh, yeah. No. He is the best running back in college football right now, and maybe by a wide margin. Got a little bit of chance, I think, to see him coming into the season, and then really been, scoping in on him. And, he's amazing. I'm working on trying to figure out what my comp would be for him, because he's a bigger back that also has elusiveness, that's also got explosiveness, that's also got speed. Every move in the book. Excellent contact balance. You're just getting him off his feet is insane. He made Washington Cougars look like a JV team last night. And defense. And they're not. He's that good as a running back. Is he going to be good enough to get into the first round? Probably. It depends a bit on how he runs on the 40 time with that, because at his size, he's going to be a little undersized, kind of in that 5'9" area. But if he comes in and he can get it a good weight, like 215-ish, 210, 215, and then run like that 4, probably take into the 4.45 range to get him into first round territory. But talent wise, old school, he would have been a no-brainer back in the day, first round pick as a running back. Now it's just a little bit of that. It's a brainer. The Seahawks have a decision to make, Snail, this offseason in regards to about 5 big contracts that I think that they've got to sign. Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tariq Woolen, Boye Mafe, and I thought I had one more on here, but Charles Cross. So in all of those deals, I think you're going to be having to set a pretty big headway amount of cap space to make all of those deals happen. And I come back to Walker, who, if he can get back to health here now, roll through this season, put up a 1,400 yard total year, he would certainly be in that same position to come back to the front office and say, I've rushed for over 3,100 yards in my first 3 years. I've got about another 800, 900 yards receiving. I've got like 30 some touchdowns. I've deserved a payday. Seattle could look at that point in time and say, you do, we don't have the money. So what we'll do is we'll move you now for a team that'll give us a second round pick back. And then we'll essentially then take a guy like Gianti, keep the running back room going with just good top caliber talent, but don't ever really end up paying the running back position. And teams have taken this approach. Denver back in the day took this approach with a guy like Clinton Portis. Portis was a great back. Portis was amazing. Got to sign him to a new deal, right? You're going to sign Clinton Portis to a new deal, right? Mike Shanahan understood. My scheme needs more just big, explosive guys that are hard to bring down to the ground. That was his type at the time, which, Portis fits that type, but you were able to flip Portis to go get Champ Bailey back to the other side. And you wouldn't be able to make that trade now, of course, but that was the decision making they made because they knew they could keep trotting through those different running backs even after Portis left. And then that'd be a fine approach for them. So that'd be the only way you could pull it off, Snail. But he's a fantastic running back. His contact bounce is insane. And has it all, maybe with the exception of not being tall. But even the undersized stuff he uses to his advantage because he's got low center of gravity. Hard to bring down. DVN says, say Geno airs it out and we're up a touchdown. Do you truly think the Dan Campbell Lions will just run the ball? These are instincts on this now, DVN. We're leaving the layer of a bit of certainty for my part and my stance on my outlook here. So do take this with a grain of salt for my outlook here. My instinct is that Goff is not playing his best football with the Lions right now. I don't think that he's regressed. I don't think that he's a shell of himself. I don't want to overstate it to make it sound like he's not the very functional quarterback he's been for that team the past couple of years. He just right now, maybe he's in a bit of a downturn point. And I think some of the pivot last week, where when I say you go from 1 week where you have 53 attempts to last week, they had more than a 2-to-1 run to pass rate against a Cardinal team. And that was a pretty close game. It's like a touchdown difference when it was all said and done. So could they become pass happy at some point? Could they start to go down that road with it a little bit? Yes. Some of what I talked about at the top is also what I believe here, which is that the Lions and Goff, some of their greatest strength is also understanding what they are not. And in Goff's case, he knows what he can and can't do. In the Lions' case, they know what Goff can and can't do. So they structure that offense in a way to, at times, protect him from having the worst side of what he looks like. And I think with him, you have to protect him quite a bit. You got to put you got to pad the walls quite a bit with him, okay? Can't leave any walls opened up. And so, as a defense, you need to remove those padded walls down. You got to make him actually have to have it made easy for him. But that's where I come back to from their standpoint, DVN, of saying, do they want to get pass happy with that? Do they want to then put themselves in that perilous position of him running the stack boxes, him running those blitzes, Goff getting overwhelmed, Goff making the worst decision as he's getting overwhelmed? Because that's what happens. He gets overwhelmed, and his decision making doesn't often go to, just throw it down here at this guy's feet, throw it away. He'll try to get a throw off haphazardly. It'll flip up into the air. And she's got already, I think, 4 interceptions on the year, but last week, barely threw the ball, and he had like one call back, another fumble. I think that was something else happened on the play, like a flag on the defense or something. He's been a little bit rough with how he's played so far. Or geez, Brandon, do you think Sharif gets some time back up with the boys? Would love to see him show what he can do on the edge also. I think that they're going to run more with the extra defensive tackle help on the inside. So you get probably like a Miles Adams and a Gotel getting activated, and then you work off of the edge with Uchenna, Uchenna, Mike Morris, Gibson, Bowser. You run with that 4 stack off the edge then. Sharif's nice, but he's a bit more into that undersized role where I don't know if they're going to trust him as much on setting the hard edges. It's possible, though. But that'd be my prediction. Mr. Kane says, short jokes, it hurts. That's kind of a low blow on Diggs. Cardo says, our old line when we faced Detroit last year was worse than our current line. We had Jay Curhan and Forsythe. That's true. Forsythe and Curhan were your starters last year. Curhan played a hell of a game that. Both of them did play a hell of a game that. I couldn't believe how they came out of it, quite frankly. Tony says, Brandon, how much would it cost to re-sign Forsythe? Good question. So, back in 2020, Tony, George Fant was with your Seahawks, and he was a guy that had often started, but then came in as a swing tackle, filling in for injury. Started 24 games over a couple of years span in that spot start role. In 2020, that guy got a 3-year, $30 million deal with the New York Jets. And when I look at Stone Forsythe, I see a guy that is very closely related to having a similar kind of career trajectory a bit here to what I see in George Fant and what he did. So I think you're probably looking, if not in that 3-year 30 role, you're probably looking 3-year 20, 24, $8 million a year minimum, I think, for a guy that is what will be considered, I guess, league average tackle that can play both left and right tackle. I think that that's going to be worth $8 million a year to some team out there in this barren landscape of offensive linemen. We're in Mad Max. We're in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome when it comes to linemen. They're very valued. But if Van gets that kind of deal, why wouldn't Forsythe get something somewhere in the ballpark? Dalsker says Kyler sucks. Team had to put in his contract to watch tape or something like that. And they did, Dalsker. That right there was a canary in the coal mine moment for the team, where if you have to start to put that in a contract for any player, quite frankly, that you're giving millions and millions of dollars to, but to give it to have to put that in for your quarterback specifically. Warning. All right. It was kind of screaming at him right there, wasn't it? Rockman Drum says Forsythe's taking dancing classes to help his footwork. It's paying off. DVM people are gassing Hutchinson's sack count, but he literally just got a lucky layup on Baker, who is a sack machine. He's already been sacked 15 times. Yeah, Baker doesn't have any escapability. He was one of those quintessential guys that you have to be careful at in college when you project them to the NFL, where at college they can get away and do some scrambling stuff, but what works at college won't work at the NFL level when they don't have that real. It's almost into sort of that 4-5-ish kind of place from a 40 time, or sort of that like a 1-5-5 10-yard split. That get up and really go. Whereas Baker was like a 4-8 guy. He was probably like a 1-6 something. And you can see that when he's got guys around him and near in the pocket, and he can't anticipate his scrambling, where he's almost a step ahead of the defender getting into him. He's not running away from anybody. Albert Dickus says, seems like the curse wheel is 2 for 3 so far. Hopefully it stays that way. I think he's broken the curse wheel because he's got multiple teams with it now. I've heard that there's some Vegas-like shenanigans going on with the Perna curse wheel. I think at this point he's gotten too lost in the power of it, and it's overtaken him now. And we've all seen how that movie goes. Got us for a while, but he overused it. RG Brandon, facts, the round table is all up on Kyler's jock. I don't know what's up with that. It made me sick from the jump. I said he was garbage this year, and well, he is. It's an opinion we share that I do see all over the place. I remember when I had the Cardinal Insider this offseason on the channel, and he was like, he's great. He's top 10 quarterback. And my tongue about fell out of my mouth. Top 10 quarterback? He's really an exciting talent, and he gives you those splash plays. And the Russell factor, this would happen with at times, where the people will see the highlight film, and you're not watching all of the plays in between at times. You just got those highlights you're getting to see, which are marvelous, but they're not telling the whole story of that quarterback and how he's playing. And you got to kind of take into account all of the snaps at times. Devian Jano sacked 8 times after 3 weeks. Baker sacked 13 times after 3 weeks. Pass protection is not there. Baker will try to hold on, though, too. He thinks he's mobile. Like, in his mind, he's like the 80-year-old guy who still thinks he's 20 years old. You're not that guy. But, yeah, the round table definitely likes himself, Kyler, on that side of it. And I get that he can play well. I get he can do some really cool things, but a lot of playing the quarterback position is what you're doing, playing and play out, and playing on time, playing on script. It isn't just the wow spectacular plays. It's sometimes as much of how you're doing that other stuff. Yeah, Ravens looking good in this game. Of course, Josh Allen is now out, so it helps. Okay, Brandon, the way the roundtable scoffed at Geno being a top 10 quarterback, but fawn over Kyler is disrespect like a mother effer. Laughing out loud. It's why I jumped on it with 2 feet. It's why I'm going to say again this week with the roundtable, because I think even if we lose the game, Geno still ends up playing well. And, you still come out and go, well, is he getting benched this week, boys? Isn't it week 5 this week? The week of the Geno benching? They didn't say anything when I said it on the roundtable last week either. Everybody was dead quiet. But, yeah, I get more up in arms with them having it, Mr. Kane, but it's even a battle I've been fighting for so long, even here within my own chat on it with people and trying to waken them up to how well this guy's played. And it's not, he isn't just starting to play this well this year. Maybe he's taking it to another level this year, maybe, but I think it's more of the reins have been taken off more than anything else. He's been fully capable these past couple of years at the same level and same degree. And seems like maybe the tide will finally start to turn here, and it's been a slow turning of this tide, but it's well earned for Geno on this part of it, and he's going to show by the end of this year, as long as the health can hold up here, as long as we can get some sort of semblance of pass protection, because I'll say this, if you're going to stay at 31st all year in pass protection, kind of all bets are off at that point. I feel like every quarterback eventually breaks. It's like torture. Everyone breaks. You put a guy under league worst pass protection for a 1, 2, 3 year stretch continuously, you're going to break a guy. But if they can improve that part of it, then you're going to get the best Geno that we've ever seen in his professional career. And the sky is the limit with this guy, in my opinion, right now. Mumbles has been a Hawksnest member for 23 months. Thank you for that, Mumbles. Who's all sitting tomorrow because of injury for us? The injury situation goes like this. You got Byron Murphy out, Leonard Williams out, Uchenna Nwosu out, Boye out. Baker is currently questionable. And then, of course, offensively, Fant will still be out. Abraham Lucas will be out. You have all your receivers. Kenneth Walker will be in this game. He will be playing. So that's pretty much your injury situation, but your front seven is very close to being called devastated coming into this game a little bit. Thank you, though, Mumbles, for almost 2 years as a Hawks Nest member. I really appreciate you for that. I'm also a little behind on the donations. I'm sorry about that. Let me catch up here. Jordan, thank you for the $2 donation. Titans or Dolphins with Huntley at quarterback? Whew. It really is a pick 'em game, Jordan. I mean, my draws go to the Dolphins, but it's as much because I've been impressed by Huntley. I mean, that guy came in with the Browns this preseason and smoked us up. He's been really good. And I think he is a very big improvement over what they had. And if they wanted to just execute read option stuff with him for the whole game and have him throw bubble screens, I think he can execute that. So I might give them the slight tip of the nod. It just doesn't seem like Will Levis has really stepped forward in his game. Their offensive line hasn't really come forward. I liked how their defense is played. I do on that part, but I think the Dolphins will maybe just have just enough, but I don't have a huge amount of confidence here, Jordan, they're two of the worst teams in the NFL. You never like betting on, even when they're playing another worse team in the NFL. It's always a bit of a crapshoot on that one. Thank you, though, for the $2 donation. I appreciate you for that. Randall with the $2 dono as well. How do we attack them when we have the ball? I think that you have to stay committed to the running game. You've got to be informed a little bit by your defensive situation and how you manage the offense, Randall, right? Like, you can't just throw the ball 32 times in the first half and look over at McDonald and be like, what, Mike? What? Run the ball. You gotta work this in this game. This is a game. Use Kenneth Walker. If he is back, then use him. Use him the utmost. Go between him and Walker. If the running game isn't working, Randall, I think that you've got to manufacture the touches to the backs, manufacture touches to receivers, the bubble game. If that's the way it's working, if the pressure is being a little bit too much, I think there's got to be a firm commitment to chipping Aiden Hutchinson. And then I think that you can attack off of that chip. Last week, this didn't work in one point because Charbonnet didn't get his head around fast enough. And then Geno had to wait a little bit late to throw the ball, and it turned into that interception where Charbonnet tipped the ball up. But you have Charbonnet come up as a third down back. He chips Aiden Hutchinson off the edge, and then he gets into he bounces off that into a quick route. You can run screen game off that at times where you have the rest of the linemen coming in, and then you get your lineman out in front of him at that point. It's a way to then slow down a bit of the pass rush and Aiden Hutchinson with it if you can run that a little bit at times. So I would work some of just, if run game ain't working, throw in some of those little just quick pop passes where maybe it's only going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But you're just giving Geno some easy completions inside of some of the harder completions that are going to be in this game where he's got to read man-on-man coverage and, who's breaking open because of how much Detroit loves to run the man coverage concepts. I think there lies another place you can attack, Randall, is this is one of the higher running man coverage teams in the league. And I think you can get after that with your receivers that are as good as any in the NFL at beating man. All three of your receivers are great at whooping on man coverage. So if they go to heavy man of that, I think you can attack with that. But I would I would really lean with the running game and stay committed to it. I would be willing to kind of just, work the chains and work the clock a little bit as you kind of feel them out. Geno's got to be willing to as well break the pocket when Aiden gets out of control, because Aiden Hutchinson's kind of one of those all or nothing pass rushers where, he'll lay his body on the line to go get the sack, but in that laying the body on the line, he'll also expose himself to get pushed out of the pocket. And then that, as we've seen at times for these quarterbacks, will then open it up for them to be able to break the pocket outside, extend a play, go run and get a couple of yards. Certainly is a game where Geno's got to be willing to do that at times if Aiden gets too out of control in his pass rush, which he's got so much freedom to work by that Lions team. And he's a very good player on that, but that's where you can use that a little bit against him at times, where he will sometimes run himself out of a play a little bit in moments. So I would attack in all of those kind of ways. Again, if you can't run the ball, if you can't do little pop passes to the running backs, flips out to the flat, then come back to a guy like Laviska and work him on fly sweeps, work him out on the edges as well. Try to get creative in this game to find footing with your ground game so that it's not all just passing game for 3-4 quarters that is your, ride or die portion of whether you're going to make it or not in this game. And unfortunately, as good as the running game's been in a couple points in the games in this season so far, it's been for the most part still very highly inconsistent, and we can't lean on it as a portion of our offense. It still is kind of an unsettled force for the most part, in my opinion. Thank you, though, Randall. Varman, thank you for another $2 donation as well. It says, thank you. Thank you, man. Enjoying the content a lot. Well, I appreciate that, Varman. I do appreciate you watching, and thank you for the donation and support as well. I love doing what I do, and I am so excited about this time to be able to cover this team because they're moving in the right direction. I think we got the smart coach, and this is going to be this season is shaping up to be a very, very exciting one. Thank you, man. Long live the king with a $2 donation. Appreciate you as well. It says the infamous too high shell has already been solved. Well, it's a hard thing to say it's been solved. I guess you'll have to explain a little bit more on that one, King, by what you're coming from with it on that. Because I don't know. I mean, I look across the league here and there's some scoring up a little bit this week, but still overall scoring is down throughout the course of the NFL. You got some higher scoring games in this one, but I mean, the games that are high scoring are against teams that aren't as good. And the Buccaneers did a bit better to solve Fangio, I suppose. But it's all about the iteration of the cover 2 shell you're running, really, as well. Because as we've seen, not all of them are equal, and McDonald's cover 2 shell is much different, I would argue, from Vic Fangio's cover 2 shell. So it's all about how you run it, and in McDonald's case, it's more if he's modified it and updated it. I think a guy like Fangio's still running his pretty purely. Does look like the Ravens are able to hang on here against the Buffalo Bills, so the Bills will fall, and that will remain. There are only 3 remaining unbeaten teams in the NFL, including your Seattle Seahawks. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. But I don't know if it's been completely solved, man. I think it's, depends on who's running it, depends on how they're running it. Take a look at the Chiefs, right? Chiefs last year get a couple early scores on McDonald. And then he shuts them down through the whole second half. Chiefs today, that Charger defense had them pretty much shut down for the whole day. And could have been worse than it was. You got a recovery back on an interception because you caused a fumble. And the Charger offense just wasn't able to get anything going against that very tough Chiefs defense. But I don't think that the Chiefs and Mahomes found any answers against that Charger cover 2 shell defense today on that side of it. So it to me, it just depends on who it is. We're sort of talking about on that, which one's running it and who's running it, what version they're running of it. Because I think, like, for instance, King, I think Fangio's is much more built to what he's doing with the secondary than it is what he's doing with the fronts. Whereas McDonald's got a lot more going on, I think, with the front 7 married to the same kind of stuff. He's doing everything that Fangio's kind of doing with the coverages, but also building in what he's doing with the fronts. I appreciate you, though, and thank you for the donation. War Chief, thank you for the 5. donation. Very kind of you guys on all those donos. Says B. Spoon gets his sacks. Reek gets his first pick 6. Hall gets 2 sacks. DK and K9 bully the Lions. We win by 14. I have spoken. You have spoken, and I'm taking it to the bank, War Chief. And that would be a hell of a game to watch. You're talking about a statement game, and you come out with those results on just that. If I know that just those things have occurred, being, DK and K9's a little vague because bully can mean a lot of things, but if that all occurs and that's the way we describe this game, you're winning by probably at the very least 14. I'd say that, War Chief. So I like your prediction. I hope you're right. Let's go Hawks. Let's go get this dub tomorrow. Let's continue to shock the world. Yeah, Nicholas, I didn't think the Eagles would lose today either. They've been a bit up and down, though, today, so far this year. And the Buccaneers are a tough matchup. They're one of those teams I'm happy to not have to play. Marty McFly says, why do we have 3 games in 10 days? Does every team have that? Nope. And the reasoning on it, I can't give you a good reasoning on it. I know that they have a whole AI system, I'm sure, that spits out all of these possible schedules, but I don't know how they looked at any point in the schedule and said that it's okay for a team to play 3 times in 11 days. And so I don't know. This is a new thing too, Marty. Didn't used to be this way, and it really does put these players, back in the day, folks, just to get through a week, just to get to the next game, and they've started to now understand that the negative side of this and using this drug, they used to have to have like the daily Toradol pops just to get through the practices. I think fans oftentimes don't really understand what really those bodies have to go through to get ready back to the next week to play. It's one of the reasons that Thursday night games suck so much, but it's just dumb, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Bobby's doing great with the Commanders, leads them in tackles. He's doing good. Yeah. Bobby's rolling. Typically strong against the run. Helped out in that today. Commanders also just kind of got up on them and just ran. They ran away with that game. New Black says, like Vikings that beat the Niners, Texans, and Packers in 3 weeks. I don't know what more they could do. Yeah, you got to give them the nod. You're right. You got to give them the nod. I hadn't thought about their level of competition, but they've earned the right to be the number 1 team. Yeah. Sean Edwards, my current 3 sources for Seahawks knowledge: Hawks Nest, Brandon Nelson, and Locked On Seahawks, Corbin Smith. Let's go Hawks versus the Lions. Most anticipated Seahawks Monday night game in a while. Let's go, man. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Up there with some good names. I'll take that company. Varman says, do you feel like McDonald didn't reveal the defense in the first couple of weeks, maybe to save it for upcoming weeks? I don't. My theory on it is actually that he is, it's 2 different things, I guess I'll say. One thing, Varman, is I think that he understands how good of a front 4 he has to be able to generate pressure, and that, I think all things being equal as a coach, if I know I got my front 4 able to get the pressure just as fast and I don't have to bring guys up the line and sacrifice these things on the back end, I'll lean into that. And when you're dealing with the level of competition we were dealing with, and specifically the offensive deficient teams we were dealing with, I think he just leaned into that a little bit. So I think that's part of the stack, Varman. I think the other part of the stack here, though, is the onboarding process with McDonald, because, he talked about a play with the Patriots a couple weeks ago that they asked him on, and he said, no, that play's on me. We haven't really practiced that. And what he's talking to a little bit on that is that, this is the new, getting the new scheme on board, and that it doesn't happen overnight or just over one off season, and that it is a process when it is so complicated. And by complication, it's not just the varied fronts you run or the varied coverages you run. It's the disguising, it's the deception, it's the how you drape it, it's the how to know when to run a check from this. If the quarterback does this and they see it coming, how do you move off of that? It's all of these little individual tiny details within the course of all these plays too. And to me, that takes a while to get in there. All that, to get all that down, and especially understanding, I think too, a lot of the getting it down requires you to actually play the games and have the players go through it and run it. So I think he's also been a bit hesitant to run this full with these guys until he's really sure that they have the basics down and that they've mastered that before you get onto the advanced stuff. But this week might push that clock up a little bit. Sean Edwards, Hawks Nest watch along is better than national broadcast play-by-play. Oh, hell yeah, Sean. I want to keep getting better at it, man. So I'm going to be doing this over the years, and my hope is that every year I get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. So I love doing it, man. It's such a cool thing. Rockman, we'll be in darn good company if we pull off a 4-0 win tomorrow night. Yes, we will. And I don't think it's happened a lot in franchise history. Very rare. Killed my Cougars last night. Yeah, he did. Giante was just gnarly. Somebody wrote on Twitter, it's like he's running through a JV squad. It's like, yeah, that's what it looked like. CJ, yes, Brandon, what are your thoughts on Russell continually suiting up for games? Is that just Russell being goofy, Russell, or is he actually convinced his head coach could go in on any play? Well, isn't he the backup? I mean, he still would be the backup at that point. I mean, if something goes down, he's called in, right? I don't know. I saw Russ was talking to the owner on the sidelines today, and he was having a little bit of I wasn't going to say animated conversation, but you do wonder what they were talking about. And you're going, send me to Miami. Is there a little bit of that going on there? You got to think from Russ's perspective. He's like, Pittsburgh's thing is not working out. Miami needs a quarterback. It's hot down there. I like Miami. Sarah likes Miami. I'm better than Tua. If I'm Russ, if I'm burning the midnight oil with my brain on this one, I might go, why not go over there? I could throw bubble screens. Orchie says, I think a good comp for Ashton as a running back would be Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, that might be a tough one on me. I was struggling for coming up with a comp though too. So I mean, I can't poo-poo your comp too much because I don't have a great comp on the other side of it. The only reason I'm a little down on the comp is Le'Veon Bell, 6'1", 235, 240. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is like underrated for how big he was for his size because he's jumping around back there behind the line of scrimmage, so you don't think about how big he is. This kid's going to be about 5'9", 210, 215. So there's about a 25-pound difference between the two, and it does affect a little bit in their running style. I think Le'Veon was a little more upright. This kid's a little bit more, gets behind his pads, a little more lower to the ground. There's like a little LaDainian in his game, but it's not that. There's a little bit of kind of some Priest Holmes in his game, but it's not that. But we have to go more 5'9". When you got that 3 inches of difference in 25 pounds, there's a little bit more of a something there. Travel Fanatic looks like it might be a high-scoring game with a similar D-line minus Darrell Taylor and Mafe. Just might turn into a shootout. Wouldn't shock me. And I agree, Travel Nature Fanatic, their lines are going to try to run it right down our throat. Right down that A gap, right down that B gap. And hopefully Gino can carve up that secondary. Michael Z, Brandon, Seahawks will win tomorrow. They didn't have any of those players that are out last year, so they'll win again. And you got an improved scheme too, right? Both sides of the ball theoretically is improved over where it's been. So good point. Hope you're right. I like it. Like the confidence. Proper Seahawks are in peaches and creamsville with their easy schedule right now. I won't deny it. I won't deny it. But hey, I'll take it too. I will take it too. Division look a little more juicier than it's been. You know, maybe we can get the freebie 4 off the bottom 2. The freebie 4 off the bottom 2. Not the Rams will be easy, but I mean, the ship's taking on water. What have to, when the ship's going down, they got to close the cargo hold. Seahawks Gaming, Patriots should trade for Cooper Kupp. I'd more if I was. That would be more a trade that the Chiefs would make if I'm the Chiefs. With Rashee Rice out, that's the team that's going to be making an aggressive trade for a wide receiver will be the Chiefs. But yeah, I don't know with the Patriots, man, gaming because you're trading for Cooper Kupp. I mean, is he on the good side of his career at this point? By the time you have Drake May ready and that offensive line ready, like Kupp will be ready to retire. I'd see more of a team like the Chiefs being a team to jump up there and try to grab him. Seahawks Blue and Green, Gino needs to throw at number 0 for the Lions. Yes, they do. Yes, agreed. Terrion Arnold. He's leading the NFL for secondary players and penalties. So you want to just attack the hell out of him. And keep in mind, leading the league in penalties from the secondary for a secondary that wants to run a lot of man coverage concepts. So a lot of room in there to be able to then take advantage of that with this kid. You know, just throw it up. It's one of those quintessential guys. You throw it down the field on a deep route. When you get him one-on-one, he's going to get panicked. He's going to get grabby. I watched one play last week on an out route by Harrison Jr., and I swear to God, he grabbed 4 different occasions over the play before the ball got there. Like grab, let go, grab, let go, grab, let go, and then one more panic grab. And so he's earned these penalties. It's not that they've been cheap or anything like that. He's deserved them. So keep forcing it. Keep making it happen. Snail says Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback than Murphy. Herb's idea is going undefeated. We meet the Bills. It's possible. Tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what's going on with Josh Allen today after he got off the field. Hopefully he's okay, but a scary moment in that game tonight with that team. But certainly possible. Niners aren't going to be easy, though. It's going to be a tough game there, too. Carter says, honestly, Patriots expended all their energy playing us and turned into an awful team afterwards because of injuries. Sometimes teams overperform. Yeah, they were a team coming in that wasn't very deep. You got them with a little bit of where they had a little bit of still that wick left on their fuse, and they were able to kind of give you a tougher fight. Not to mention it's on the road, 10 a.m. But yeah, I agree. They've had more offensive line injuries riddle through. They've lost some defensive players. It's a team that's a couple years away, but they're smartly taking the long-term approach on this one and showing you why you don't play these quarterbacks early, and it's going to be better for Drake long-term that they don't. They got a lot of work to do, though. They need to rebuild that offensive line. They need to make sure they get the playmakers cemented down. Defense is pretty good, but it probably needs some difference makers on it as well. Yeah, travel with Knack. We weren't able to run the ball much last year. That was having Stone and Jake on the field at once because it was Jake Curhan and it was Stone Forsythe. Not to mention you weren't getting any push from your center position or your right guard position at that time. So it was like there was no push in that football game for K9. Donnie, how you doing, man? It's good to see you in the house. Good luck, King. I do agree. Hawks offensive line's been a bit of a liability. Dami Dudu, how do you feel we match up against the Bills? They're on deck in a few weeks. Well, I mean, coming into this game, they've been doing a pretty good job against the pass. I think that though they've looked overall pretty strong as a team. I mean, tonight was maybe as much of a difficult test as they've had so far. You have the Cardinals not looking very good. Dolphins not looking very good. Jaguars, who they beat 47-10, and that's an impressive win. But Jaguars are one of two teams in the NFL right now that don't have a win. Three teams that don't have a win in the NFL. So, you do have to reconsider their schedule a little bit on the back of how they played tonight and how badly they got beat by the Ravens. And I think that is a game, as I thought a bit like the Dolphins coming into this season, that sure, I'm glad that game gets to be in Seattle versus on the road. It will depend a little bit on where Josh Allen is from a health standpoint, but, losing Diggs, they've tried to kind of, rather than have a difference maker like receiver in Diggs, it's been more about assembling a collection of talented guys from the tight end to the Keon Coleman you got this offseason to Shakir that they hope is going to grow into his role. And everybody's going to kind of have their little part that they're able to supply to the process. But they do look a little light as far as their guys on that outside. And it's a little bit too much on Josh, I think, to carry the load. The offensive line is really doing good, I think, this year for the most part coming into this game. But again, level of competition, we'll see with them. We're going to get the same kind of test tomorrow night the Bills did. I think the difference is that we're dealing with a little bit more injuries than the Bills were coming into this game. But if they've got Josh, it can be a long day at the office, no matter how lean they might look this year versus other years. The Ravens were able to run the ball on them and get downhill on them tonight. We haven't, as consistent so far, been able to get as much downhill in the running game to be able to challenge them where they're weak like that. But that may become really as much where the key is at. I don't think they're great at stopping the pass, but I think that's where you can maybe get after that Bills team a little bit more than as much you can get after them in the pass. Flying Blind, how's it going? Link to join, watching another undefeated team go down. What's the latest? How we feeling? I think there's some trepidation out there right now, Flying Blind. I think there's a feeling a little bit out there of, man, this is a lot of injuries, or maybe one too many. And it's just that it's happening to kind of one specific positional group or around that front seven. I think it has me nervous, has a lot of people nervous. And you can see where if Hawks come out of the loss in this game, it's going to be easy to probably point to this being at least a big portion of the reason, if not the main reason. Hopefully they can work around it, though. The Blacks Chiefs might have lost Rice to a torn ACL. It looks like that to me. The way he was reacting when he was on the card, and man, the knee twisted badly back. It was like the Nick Chubb knee injury a couple of years ago or a year ago or whatever. It's like, oof, that one didn't go the right way. And that's a big loss for them because, I know that the kid out of Texas is giving him some bright moments, but I don't know if he's ready to take on the full burden of kind of like what Rice was taking on. So they're gonna probably have to make a move out there for some receiver. They'll probably be able to find somebody though. Proper Chiefs have the craziest luck ever. Refs always on their side. It definitely works in their favor pretty good. That Rice loss is a big one though. Grandizer, hi Brandon Kane, hope all is well. My guys at Roar of the Lions UK tried to reach out to you for a collab, but it maybe have been too late for your schedule. I strongly recommend you. Go Hawks. Oh, I didn't see him. You've been pretty good about checking my Twitter and my email, so tell him I'm sorry I missed him on the deal, but yeah, definitely must have just missed him. I've been checking and stuff, but nothing's come down recently on down on the line, so tell him I'm sorry I missed it, though. I'm always happy to go on others' pods. Proper says it's a cakewalk. Look at the Niners schedule. Toughest one in the league, possibly. No, it's a valid point. It's a valid point, Proper. And folks, you guys know we're going to, by the way, folks, get yourself ready for us having Niner fans and Rams fans and Cardinal fans. I'm doing this round table, so part of it will be that we'll have, and it's a good thing. It just means our channel gets bigger and bigger, having fans of other people coming on in the house, and Proper's been in here a bunch, and he's always usually respectful, and he's bringing up a good point. I don't think he's bringing up a wrong point. I mean, it was Proper I was bringing up at the start of the channel, at the start of the video today, that I looked over the landscape of this league right now, and after you get through this Lions game, your Seattle Seahawks play one team. We're through 4 weeks of an NFL season. Your Seahawks play one team through the whole rest of their schedule who has, basically one loss. Everybody's got a loss on your schedule. Everybody's got 2 losses on the schedule, basically, as you look down the line. And so schedule is set up very cherry for us right now. Cardinals don't look like they're taking that strong step forward some foresaw. The Rams are beating all the hell and lame, and just it looks like they're going to really be having a hard time. So there's potentially a 4 stack in there of wins for both your Niners and my Seahawks to grab onto, and then the rest of the schedule, in addition to that, being very winnable. Teams like the Bears still on the schedule. I can absolutely see this be one that sets up well for us to be able to make a run here. I think it's fair. And I don't mind it. I don't need some hard. We had the hard ass schedule last year, Proper. Don't forget we had that horrible, and we are playing the 3 games in 11 nights. I don't think you guys got to run like that in your schedule right now, but yeah. DVMB, I'm behind on the video. That was a response to the girl, not in you, my bad, on the Lions run the ball. Oh, my bad. Sometimes I misunderstand too, so probably me. Varman, I feel like Gabe will be ready for the Packers game. I still call me a dreamer, Varman, but I still come back to Abe's coming back this year. Maybe it's around mid-year. Maybe they're just going to be ultimately as careful as they absolutely possibly can be with him. But I think by mid-year he comes back, and what a boon that would be. New Blacks, Russ does still throw a sexy deep ball. You better believe it. That hasn't gone anywhere. I'd get it if Russ was like, send me to Miami. I don't think it'd be diva behavior on his part to say, send me there. I should have an opportunity to start. You got your guys Fields that you want to roll with them. Give me my opportunity. My clock's winding down. And my clock from a reputational standpoint across the league is winding down. This is only going to hasten that process by having me sit on the bench for the totality of this year to be your insurance policy. So I'd get it if Russ was wanting to push out from under that side of it. And we'll see how that goes. Handle, what's my cat's name? Pumpkin is her name. She is indeed the best cat ever. Look, she heard her name being said. Say hi. Yeah. Hello. You have a good nap? She got some real salmon today. My grandma came over and gave her some real salmon. So she's deep in the salmon sweats. Man, they love that real. They kind of like the canned stuff, like the real stuff, like it's like the wild feral cat animal come out in her. DVM, Bobby, and Brooks were both coverage liabilities. Our safeties were liabilities. Yes, that is correct. I agree there. Sonny says, Detroit's the one team I wouldn't mind losing to, but I believe we can pull off the upset. Go Hawks. It's a great way to put it, Sonny. I feel the exact same kind of way. If you lose, it's not the end of the world. You'd love to steal it away, though. Lauren Stewart says, Go Hawks from Calgary. 28-17 Hawks tomorrow. I love the confidence, Lauren. Let's go. I love it. I feel good to come away. Nice, comfortable win. Yeah. That's a put your feet up kind of win right there. It's a victory formation kind of win right there, Lauren. Carter likes our chances. Got basically the same team, just better schemes. I think that's right. Better coaches. We got a chance in this. This ain't going to be like a guaranteed L or anything in the close of like, oh, the odds are so long. I mean, it still is a coin flip kind of game. War Chief, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that. War Chief says, B, let me be more specific. DK bullies line secondary with deep nines and deep slants, and K9 bullies the box in the red zone for a tutty or two. I like it. Let's go. Hey, the offense is capable. There's no doubt about that, right? It's absolutely capable of throwing up a lot of points on you real fast. And Grubb, with his ability to be looking for those explosive plays anytime, anywhere. I love it, man. Let's go, War Chief. Thank you for the donation, and I love your prediction. Devian says holding the Lions to 14 would actually be insane. That'd be a hell of a defensive effort with what we've got. Yeah, that'd be... Insane's a good way of putting it. Donnie's got 2012 Seahawks. Okay, some trust in the defense out there. I like it. Cardinals got a shootout. 34-20, 30-24. All right. Confidence is going hard through the 12s tonight. I like that. Let's go. Proper says, if I'm being realistic without bias, I would say the Lions win 55-12. Well, come on now. You think that Lions defense is going to keep us to 12 points? No way. No way. Has a McDonald defense ever given up 55 points? Has a McDonald defense ever given up 40 points? Maybe once? 4 or 5 years ago. Nicholas, have a good night, Hawks friends. Got to get off to school. I'm crashing. Have yourself a great one, man. Thank you for watching tonight. Appreciate you. Steele says, yes, very realistic. Almost as realistic as the Niners being second in the division. Erickson's Gina says, Gino's going to be running and gunning tomorrow, and I can't wait. Let's go, Erickson. Let's go. Space Nass. What's up, Space? Riverside, Mike Mack might have Ben Johnson's number. Part of this game that does be an interesting part of the chess match to watch between those guys, where I like running some of the stack fronts too, because you can run the stack fronts, which can help you with the run game and having bodies down there near the line of scrimmage post snap, especially because a lot of what the Lions are going to want to do is come downhill quickly. You just condense down those cracks that much more. But then you can also drop those guys into quick coverage fast to the quick, fast routes they're going to try to sometimes run. And a lot of what Johnson wants to do with those is run those option routes that feels off of the leverage. And a lot of times, feeling off of the leverage prior to the snap. It's hard to do that if everything's going to be in a fluctuating state post-snap with the coverages. And we'll see if they play that way. We'll see how this offense aligns to McDonald's scheme this next week. Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate you. Of course, the only hesitation in saying Mike Mack will shut down Detroit is that we are lacking interior pressure. It's hard to get Goff with just edge pressure. It's true. True. Proffer's is only in second temporarily. We'll see, Proffer. We shall see. Yeah, I hear you, kitty. Boy says, I need DK to go crazy for my fantasy as a Hawks fan, of course. I do too as well. He's one of my receivers. My other two guys held up their end of the bargain today with Jefferson and Harrison doing well. DK just needs to finish it off for me and I'll be going good. I'll be in good territory. Hoist does B. Think we grab an O lineman from the Jags during the trade deadline? I'm sure with that record, they ain't doing anything soon. I looked at their offensive linemen. There wasn't a lot of guys that had me very well impressed where it stood right now with what I saw from them. That would be a team that would be a team to start to look as a target team to, be able to sort of pilfer from potentially. But that is also a team that's probably not looking to give away offensive linemen with where they want to keep Trevor Lawrence in the future, unless it's a guy that's heading for a contract year, which I don't think they have. Maybe they had like a Scherf or something, but he wasn't playing very good there. It's like a guy that, if you go off of his reputation from a couple of years ago, yes, but otherwise, no. The Browns are maybe a possibility, on looking there if there's something that can, settle out with them having the year they're having. But so far as I've looked through the teams that are out there, there's nobody that stands out to me as a real viable option there as far as the offensive line. And I have looked at a couple of teams on this hand grenades, just the teams that are bad, like a Patriots team or a Raiders team that'll eventually be bad, I think. They don't have anything to offer as far as offensive line help goes. They're bad in that area as well. It's part of the thing I say. It's a league-wide issue. Proper says, Brandon, at what point can we say Trevor Lawrence is a bust? It's flying under the radar because nobody cares about the Jaguars. It's a fair question. I think when it comes to sometimes situations, there's a pull for things to go to black and white. And I think that sometimes that can be applied. I think there's other times where there's some more deeper shades of gray going on. And I am a big guy proper on a quarterback, and how they do is influenced heavily by the supporting cast they have. And that's not just by your offensive talent, but also by the scheme you're running, by the coaching, by the development of that. How's your defense on the other side of it? It's kind of all that working together. And then it's also then how you're individually developing on top of that. When I look at Trevor Lawrence, I see a guy who is not stepping forward in his development necessarily, but I also see in the Jaguars a team that has not taken the proper steps there to give him the supporting cast to allow him to truly flourish. Has he had a grade A defense since they arrived there? No. Where was pass protection coming into this week? It's around 26th or 27th. And I often bring this up where that's been very normal for him to atypically deal with that. I know that there's highlight moments we can pull from Lawrence in these games where he'll have a clean pocket and then just go run out of it. Or he should have a clean, easy throw and he loops it right over the top and throws an interception. I point to some of that being then the cumulative effect that you get with a quarterback who doesn't have the good defense, who doesn't have a good offensive line, doesn't have the good coaching. You get a couple of years of that, and then you have a guy that starts to look like he's not developing, or as you put it, a bust. And that's where I say it gets hard to come to that conclusion, because I can't toss away those other factors as not being a part of this process. And it's why I've lauded so much proper Geno Smith, because he's dealt with those same type of things, and yet he's flourished. It speaks to how good he is, because it's how hard it is as a quarterback to play well in that kind of environment. Now, as I said, that's not the whole tale of the tape here. It's just one of those things where that tale of the tape of the coaching supporting cast to me sticks together with the lack of forward development of Lawrence, and it gets hard to pull the two apart or to lay the higher point of blame to one than the other. But I will say that there's been some brutal moments watching him on the tape. He's missing at times things that should not be missed, but I'm not sure that Peterson has done a good job. I'm not sure Peterson has advanced him since arriving there. I haven't seen the effect of Peterson on him as a player. And so when it gets tough, then pulling those two apart to me, just it gets a little murky. What are our chances of winning, Brody? I mean, I'd bring us into this game as like a 3-point dog right now. And so what's a 3-point dog on the grand scheme of things, you know? You wouldn't put a 50-50, so I guess you go like 45%. If I'm just kind of playing to what, the odds are on it. It's hard to be down 5 of your top 8 front 7 players and go against a very functional, legitimate offense and a good team overall. And then you're wiping the floor with them. Well, it's going to be more of a dogfight, and if it's a dogfight, it's going to get more down to the line, and then can go either way. Ricardo, Jags need to fire their coaches and general manager, make a clean sweep, and hire competent people. Their team is coached and constructed and poorly coached. That's the thing too, proper. I am a little surprised with you on this one, because you would acknowledge as a Niner fan that Trent Baalke isn't doing the Jaguars any favors. Mr. I like traits. All he does is hump traits in the draft. And, I don't know if his team building approach there for Lawrence, I think that's a good point on the part of, Ricardo there. I don't, again, that's that part I come back to where like, that's a part of it, and that is a part of it. I'm not kicking out the tail. I'm not kicking out the legs of Lawrence having his own share of responsibility here, but I can't overlook that. And I never liked Baalke, really. I mean, he pushed out Harbaugh out of there. He was quickly out after that. Every year I watch his drafts and I shake my head. It's like when he took the kid out of Georgia a couple of years ago, when he had a chance to take Aiden Hutchinson. Like that is a quintessential Trent Baalke type situation right there. That is a quintessential Trent Baalke decision. Aiden Hutchinson, no-brainer, defensive player of the year candidate. It's going to be awesome every year. Baalke looked at that guy and went, limited ceiling. Give me the guy with the higher ceiling. Yeah, but this guy doesn't have anywhere near close to the floor of the other guy. Yeah, just other guy with the ceiling. Okay. You don't trade you. CL, I never liked Trevor. His face annoyed me, but he's also a half good quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I have liked him too a lot. And I still have some hope for him, but good lucking says Hawks just need to beat San Francisco twice. Probably ain't gonna happen, but we can hope. Well, you beat San Francisco twice. I think you're taking this division because I do believe you're going to go 4-0 up against Cardinals and the Rams at this point. And I put you 6-0 with 3 and 9, and yeah, you're winning that division to that point. Alex says Damian Lewis back from the Jags. Just kidding, laughing out loud. Oh, he's with the Panthers. Maybe they do it. Ricardo, Jags need to fire their. Oh, sorry about that. Lauren, still too early to look up. Still too early to look for something else for a team to pick something up. Agreed. Wait and see how Big Cat and Byron are in weeks to come. Agreed. Yeah. Got to wait a little bit down the line, and maybe something does develop on this front at that point. It still is early to tell. Oh boy, if you had to guess what will be the Hawks' greatest struggle tomorrow, my guess is, hot take, I think pass coverage due to our D-line being ran over will open up the playbook for them. Yeah, probably to your point, probably the tight ends. Your linebackers are probably going to be really hot stepping their way into their gap integrity and trying to get up there to help out their D-line. And then that off the play action, I think that then lets Goff hit some stuff short and over the middle and just stop routes there that he can kind of pick on you with. I think that and the combination of being able to run fairly consistently and get themselves into third and shorts, opening up those kind of throws, is where I think the struggle comes in tomorrow defensively. Where, the line stay committed to it. It'll almost be like ground knocks offense from the 80s. First down run, second down run, 3rd and 4, quick pop throw it to the tight end on a stop route. Wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Kind of the same place. Proper, I've seen some plays of Flaw just looking like a broken quarterback. I don't know. Their O-line situation, though. No, it is. It's been there. I've seen those same things where you cringe a little and you go, you can't put any excuses on anybody else on that one, Trevor. But that is also the cumulative that I do talk about with quarterbacks proper, where I'm a big believer on. It's one thing if a quarterback deals with that on a game. It's one thing if a quarterback deals with that for like a 3-game stretch. It's another thing when you have a quarterback dealing with that from day one of arrival and continuously, for the most part, there week in and week out as to something that they have to overcome and deal with. And I think that there is it's like I've related at times proper to a fighter who can have a really tough chin and he's just taken too many of those haymakers and eventually he gets his button pushed one too many times. And now you've got a broken fighter. Now you got a guy with a glass jaw where it once was strong. I think some of that can come from, getting it wore down too early, too quick. And I don't think that's the full explanation for Lawrence, but I do think that that's a part of what's coming in on that. And then it does affect those, my point on that too, proper, is that it affects those plays downstream. So now plays where you don't have the pressure, that's where we get those terms like seeing ghosts pop up and bailing on a clean pocket. Well, because the cumulative starts to add up and it's harder to kind of like, factor the cumulative, right? If a guy's got, because it's only, you're not in his head, you can't see what he's thinking, or he's like, the last couple of plays I've had my clock cleaned, I'm getting out of this pocket first thing because I'm not getting hit again. Like, you don't have that foresight in his head as to what's going on. It just looks like in that moment he's got a clean pocket and he just threw it over 10 yards over his head for an interception. What's going on? The guy was wide open. Yeah, they are down a linebacker, Derek Barnes, for the Lions. Alim McNeil, whatever his damn name is. He's going to play, though. Not sure on Branch. Up in the air on him. And then they got a couple guys dinged, but not out. However, that I do not fear their wide receivers at all. Maybe the tight end might be a problem with. Same. I think we match up with their wide receivers. Carter Lawrence has all these deep receivers and their play calls are step back, chuck deep, but their O-line sucks. Yeah, it does seem like they have a lot of deep drops in their play calling. Herbicide, Bobo had an amazing catch last year. Wasn't that it versus the Lions? He had the Cardinal one-handed catch. I think that's the one you're thinking of. That was the Cards. Scott Gunther, thank you for the $2 donation. Hey, B, any news on right tackle? Well, thank you for the donation. Unfortunately, nothing to update you on. Fant is going to be out for this game. Lucas is still out. There's hope that he could be back around mid-season. The team had Jason Peters visiting this past week, so they may eventually sign him to get some help in-house until you can get a little bit of the reserves back in the ranks. But still a situation as it is what it was. Still, Stone will be starting for you this week, and I think McClendon Curtis will be backing up for him this week. Steele, I took a $100 bet last year that the Buckeyes would make it to the national game with one of my troops. Not only did the Buckeyes not make it, but my team did, laughing out loud. I felt bad and let him keep it. Oh, you took, well, I might have taken it because it's the Buckeyes. They've won so often. You're like, yeah, you guys, that's what you get for thinking you'll win every single year. Proper, is the Miami quarterback the best college quarterback prospect in college right now? Depends on what you're measuring it on. Proper, do we build it into pure talent, or am I going to build in the off-field head leadership stuff too? I mean, Shadur Sanders is probably the most talented quarterback purely on ability, but you're obviously worrying about him with off the field dad, diva, a lot of other extracurricular problems that don't have anything to do with how he plays the position. But he's got all the mobility you're looking for. He's got plenty of arm strength, can make every throw, can throw off platform, can improvise, can play on script. Hasn't had the offensive line to make him look his best, but would be, if he had the off the field stuff, not a question, a top 5 quarterback in this next draft. As it is, he'll be probably a first round quarterback. I still think he's probably the first guy that goes off the board proper when it's all said and done. Quinn Ewers, it's just certain GMs just have a big, thick, rubbery one for that guy for some reason. I don't know why, but he seems to just get a lot of love out there, even though I don't like him a lot, but probably will end up going in the first round, though neither of these two guys do I think proper will go in the high first round at this point. Yeah, Cameron Ward has elevated himself into late first round status as well. So this will be a probably rare year where you'll see, as it looks to me right now, 3 quarterbacks taken from the 15th pick in the first round onward, probably. Somewhere in that neighborhood, I would say. Maybe even as high as like a 12-ish thing where a team just falls in love with one of those guys, but all will have their own questions. Shadur, it's off the field, and not off the field and stuff. He's like Jalen Carter off the field, just off the field. And is this guy going to be all about ball? Is he going to be a leader in our room? Blah, 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 blah. Quinn Ewers is going to be, lack of mobility, injury situation, offense very heavily catered to making it easy on him at times. And then with Cam Ward, it's a little bit of the size stuff. But Cam's played the best of any of the prospects as far as elevating his status and doing the most to elevate his status throughout this year. I think he came in as a probably 3rd round kind of projection guy who has elevated himself all the way up into the back of the first round here with his performance. He's been great. He's so much fun to watch too, proper. I mean, he's fun to watch play the quarterback position. There's those guys at college that run spread and they're just robots, and to me, Carson Beck is a little bit like this. We're just very robotic, just, here's where you're going, there's where you're going, here's where you're going, there's where you're going. And with Ward, he's back there having to kind of figure stuff out. Y2K, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate that, Y2K. This game, the defensive backs step up with 2 clutch interceptions. Well, one of my prerequisites I want to see, or hopefully see from this game, Y2K, is a little bit more man coverage concepts from our corners in this game, so you can provide some more help to your fronts and run some more games up there. I think this is a game, if you do run those man coverage concepts and you get Goff with some pressure underneath him there, because he gets a little bit of the simulated pressures, force him to throw the ball a little bit faster, and you can go get those interceptions. You've had 2 pick sixes off Goff in back-to-back years of playing him. One off of forcing that clock a little bit faster, one where he just thought he could kind of fit it in there. So you've had some good history recently the past 2 years, even though he's also been able to move the ball on you. So it's been both the good and the bad there on that side of it. But I love your prediction, Y2K, and I hope you're right. Boo, Hawks Nest member at that time, Jeff Saturday blew 30-point lead when he was coaching for the Colts, laughing out Colts and bad decision-making. Yeah, it's one of those teams. I always say, Boo, it always goes back to a little bit of... always goes back to a little bit of the ownership where it starts. Owner wanted to just try out Saturday. Not everybody really wanted to have that happen or go down. He decided he's going to do it. You see the way that they're a team that's one of those preeminent teams I say that gets caught in between. I think that's what you get with an owner that wants to be aggressive, but then a general managership that wants to be patient, but then the lines start to cross a little bit there. And the Colts are a team that just, the way that they have addressed the quarterback position over the last 7 or 8 years has been kind of a joke. It's been without much plan or foresight. Not even 8 years. You go back to where they started with Andrew Luck. Where you began with Andrew Luck and not giving him an offensive line, and you got him beat to hell. I mean, and now they're making the same mistake here with Richardson. That you like to think that these teams are all smart and they think their stuff through and they calculate their decision making and they learn from their mistakes. But you watch these organizations and they'll make the same mistakes over and over again. Same mistakes over and over again. And I don't think that it's just by happenstance that happens. I think it's because they're being dumb in their approach. This Richardson thing is going to turn into another cautionary tale. Doodle Bob, I wonder what they'll say if we beat the Lions with all these injuries. It's going to be hard not to give us the props at that point. Hand grenade Branch is out. Brendan did a video today. Let's go. Brian Branch is out. That's huge. No Branch, no Barnes. They lost Marcus Davenport last week as well. Okay, the scales are starting to balance a little bit. But what, do you think the coaching staff will really allow the same O-line personnel? I feel as though having the same people and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Yeah, I mean, it depends upon... there's a little bit of a calculation I think it's got to be done here a bit on what makes the great offensive line. Is the great offensive line built up of just who we think are the best players of the position, or is the O-line also built up on being given time to have cohesion and chemistry to set? And I get where that reference comes into, but when you're only 3 games into a season, po' boy, and you have almost a fully rebuilt offensive line, I think that if anything, you have to apply patience to that situation, not impatience. And that one of the great hallmarks of a good offensive line is those guys having time to play with each other. Bradford coming into this year had never played a single down. Coming through the end of preseason, had never played a single down next to Connor Williams. So much of what a right guard and center does is in tandem and combo blocks and the timing of that. And Laken Tomlinson had never played on this team a snap before the first game this year. Now, Stone Forsythe's a better left tackle than he's a right tackle, but he's doing fine out there. I think that you got to let it sit on this and develop with time. If we get to week 8 or 9 and you're not seeing any cohesion coming together or chemistry coming together, that's one thing. But a guy like Bradford's got to play. He's got an upside to him. I want to go reach that upside. The only way to get to that upside is him playing. He is not going to reach it on the bench. He's got to play. It's not like quarterback, where I think a quarterback is a position that can benefit early on in a career to coming in and sitting on the bench. I think with these guys, it's other positions on the field. It's more about getting them out there and getting them going. And the team trusts, I think, in the upside of Bradford here, and that's what's driving them to keep him out there, even though there's so many people calling for him to be taken off the field, because they see that upside and they feel he really has a great chance of realizing it. And I tend to agree with them on this. It doesn't guarantee he'll get there, but I believe in his upside and the type of player he can become if you can give him this time to develop. And I think that Williams is going to get better as the year goes along. Remembering again with this po' boy, guy had ACL reconstructive surgery. Right? He's not played as his best early on, but that's understandable, where you go, okay, yeah, but he's coming off that major surgery. He had no training camp on top of it. Is he going to get better as the year goes along? Is there logical reason to believe that'll happen? Yeah, there is. So I would keep leaning on being patient myself. I understand, though, that there is a push on this one. I do. And you're not the only one. Cool Breeze, Forsythe propaganda, laughing out loud. We've come so far. Dude has turned it around. Not going to lie. He has. He's been solid the past couple of years for us when we've had to call upon him, including last year in that Lions game. CJ says Geno's processing time is going to have to be huge in this game. Getting through his reads and progressions, making the right decisions. We all know he can do. Hopefully the world will see it tomorrow. Hopefully so. Hand grenade B, you're going to try to get Tom Grassi for behind enemy lines. I have reached out to Tom, and I got no response from Tom. So I did Perna as well. Perna said he'd do it, and then Perna bailed on me for the Seahawker podcast. So understandable. Those guys are busy. They got a lot going on, not a lot of time, but I did try. You guys are free to hit him up on Twitter and say, do the Hawks Nest. Maybe that'll help. We get a little bit of collective power on this one. Lauren says Madden Sim says Hawks 31-10. Let's go. JS says Stone, the Rock Forsythe's going to lay down the smack on that Hutchinson candy ass. Do you smell what Stone Forsythe has cooking? Yeah, Herbicide Stone had his best game last year for those Lions. It's true. Hutchinson's actually not the worst kind of guy for Stone to go up against. Hutchinson's really an athletic technician for the position. You know, he's got good explosion. He's got very good markers that you'd look for from a physicality standpoint, but he is really great with the hand usage and just having that plan of attack and using those hands well. With Stone, so much that he'll struggle with at times is those beefier edges that you're just going to, you know, turn the game into a brawl for him, and where he's just got to fight off power and strength all day, and that's where he's going to struggle a bit. So it's not the worst matchup for Hutchinson. I'm not saying it's a great matchup for him, but there's ones that you worry about more with certain guys in this league with Stone than this one necessarily. I'm not saying Hutchinson isn't still a problem. He is. I'm not saying I don't want to still chip him. I do. But there are other edges that are just more problematic for him stylistically. Stone. God's Gang, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that, Gods. He says, Jets screwed me today in fantasy. I have Breece Hall, and they barely used him when Rodgers couldn't complete a pass to save his life. Yeah, did they get on the Braylon time, man? Let's take a look at this. Were they on the Braylon time? Because Braylon was rolling last week. They did. They went 8 carries to Braylon, 34 yards, 10 carries. I mean, Hall only got 4 yards on 10 carries, Brody. Something's not right with Breece Hall. There's a little guy a little bit like Javonte Williams with the Denver Broncos, where you do wonder if has he gotten back fully off that torn ACL he suffered his rookie year? Is he the same running back he was before the ACL? But it was a downpour there. You could argue, God's Gang, to your point on that, though, that you're in those kind of conditions. You need to say, look, I know we have Rodgers here to try to carry us through days, but it's pouring down rain. We got to lean on the running game and, you know, protect up our defense as much as we can and just try to go this route with it. Because you do look at the bottom line of it, and you got 23 carries for 42 attempts. You attempted 42 passes on a day where it was pouring down rain. And the Broncos on the other side of it had only 25 passes to your 42. And they ran the ball 31 times. And it's not like the Broncos were necessarily gashing on that side of it. They were running it relatively effectively. But you got to take into account the conditions at times. And it was a downpour. It was coming down in buckets. Even Pumpkin gave us the vote for Lions. Yeah, she's getting a little bit feisty here. Owen Carter Branch is doubtful. Branch is doubtful. Gino is finna wheel and deal even more than usual. I'm feeling a lot better about this game than I was a little bit ago. Shaping up to be another shootout. Just might be so. That's a huge loss for the Lions. That is their best player in their entire secondary. That is better than any safety they got. That's better than any corner they got. Brian Branch is a fantastic player. He can play slot. He can play safety. He's a factor in the running game. He can cover anybody out of the slot in addition to that. So that's a huge loss to them. That's no small thing, especially considering the rest of that secondary's got some question marks. They traded for Carlton Davis, who's been picked on a little bit so far this year in coverage. Terry Arnold's most flagged cornerback, flag secondary player in the entire NFL, and I'm not really that big on their safety situation at Branches and back there. I think it's very weak. So a lot to go after there. A lot to go after. And no doubt that'll affect the Lions and what they are willing to call with their front seven and the blitz game and how much they want to roll with that. Breeze Pumpkin's a Salmon fan. She's been petitioning for an expansion team for years now. Yeah, Pumpkin's definitely in that feist mode. She wants some mic time. Yeah, she's getting frustrated. She's like, you will pet me. I don't care if you're live. Baby Simba. That's right. B, are you going to have fun watching the Rams and Cardinals game for the Behind Enemy Lines show? I already watched it. I watched it today, Fimi. I mean, I was admittedly bouncing back and forth, but a little bit on them. But I mean, I got the gist of the 49ers game. I was more watching the Cards game too. I mean, you got a pretty cool understand of what happened with that on both those two. But I was enjoying it today, man. It was fun watching. It was good watching the Rams lose. That was a fun game to watch with that, as you could just feel with the Rams. You know, they just don't have the guys on the outside to win right now, you know, and Stafford's doing everything he possibly can do, but he's kind of trying to just make it go on his own. And defensively, they're light. They don't have the guys on the outside. Tre'Davious White's turning into a bit of a penalty machine, and Bears were able to run on him, and Caleb was able to be efficient. And I think that Cardinals defense in general is just going to continue to struggle. Herbert says, Pumpkin's mean. I want to see their kitty. She'll never allow her up on this cat tree. I'll tell you that. She's trained the other kitty to don't even tempt fate. Don't you dare. Don't you try. Ricardo, yeah, I had Breece Hall, Josh Allen, James Cook in fantasy. It wasn't a good weekend. Yeah. I've got James Cook, so I don't think I did too good on that side of it. Hopefully the rest of my guys are able to hold the line. Hopefully. Ricardo, Brandon, are you surprised Rodgers couldn't move the ball against the Broncos? Also, does that make our week one win all that more impressive? No, it was a downpour. So, you know, when specifically, let's just go outside of snow. Let's go outside of, it was a little windy there today too, but I mean, downpour, like coming down in buckets. So remember, Ricardo, 2 years ago, you had a Bears team take on the 49ers on the road to start out the year. And the 49ers came in there, and Justin Fields at quarterback, and it kind of leveled it was like a monsoon-like conditions, and it kind of leveled the playing field a bit there. You got those late summer rains coming through. And so it shuts everything down. And so Rodgers wants to run his precise passing game and drop back there and have his foot set in the ground and let it rip. And it's hard to do that in those conditions, say nothing of putting the ball in the right place on time with the velocity you want to put it on with. So no, I'm not surprised. Broncos team has been, look, they just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road, and that defense has been really coming along. Jared Allen, just not Jared Allen, but the Zach Allen kid has been a monster for them, and they've been playing out of control good. So, and on top of it too, I'm not sure the Jets offense is that great. I think that Garrett Wilson's a really nice receiver for them, but I don't think Rodgers has a plethora of targets to go to. Braylon Allen's really good, but like we talked about with Breece Hall, you know, you're dealing with a guy that's maybe not at 100% of where he was a couple of years ago as a rookie. I think that's a fair question. So no, I don't think it makes it more impressive for us on our side of it. It's just different circumstances, and the rain is just such a big deal there. Proper Fred Warner isn't human, man. He's awesome. Man, you talk about a game and a moment there in that game where, you know, they're sort of gut check time. You know, we can't lose this game. We lose this game, this season is off the rails fully. You know, we got to slap this back into place. I, as a leader, got to stand forward and be at the centerpiece of this. Jumps up, climbs the ladder, makes a great play in coverage there when you need it, takes it back for a pick six, get on top of a team like the Patriots, and then you just kind of slowly put them down. And that's what you're able to do. But he is by far the best inside linebacker in the sport. And he's been that way for probably about the last 3 years. Nitro, who would ever lose to the Rams? That's probably. It was a weird game, man. It was just a weird game. And division matchups are always different, you know. So much familiarity. Nitro, it's pretty funny how Jake wasn't worried about the linebackers before the year. Now he's saying they're bad. Yeah, he was like, Troy Reader. Like, what? You guys gave up on him once already. What? No, now he looks at his best now. And so you gave up on him when he was about to get better then. It's kind of indictment on the front office, isn't it? Yeah, they you can see this one coming down the track with that, and that's I'm saying on some of those points and the views on this. Like, you take views, just make sure you're basing them on something. And if I lose one of my inside linebackers at the start of the year, and he's one of my top 3 defensive players on the team after I just lost a generational player, I'm probably going to be like, I'll be a little conservative in my outlook on this defense. Just playing the odds. Just playing the odds. Good lucky, and the Broncos do have a legit defense. I mean, they played really good football. Look at Baker Mayfield and what he did to that Eagles team today versus how that Broncos defense held them down. So I think I questioned a little bit of Vance Joseph there with Payton and, breaking something that was working with Evero there as a defensive coordinator, but you can't argue with the, bottom line end result, which is that it's been successful, this transition to the new defense. Kind of running the cover 3 with a blitz heavy nature. Kind of interesting. Old School Seahawk has become a member of the channel. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel, Old School Seahawk. We'll be doing a call-in show on Thursday this week for members of the channel, and Tuesday morning this week we'll be posting the PFF scores from this next game, and Monday morning otherwise. But thank you for becoming a member of the channel, Old School Seahawk. I appreciate you for doing that. He says, Hawks Nest equals best value on the internet. Hashtag more Bobo. Hey, hashtag more Bobo, and I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Please do, folks, hit that like button if you could for me. If you haven't already. It does help me out a tremendous amount, getting us bigger and growing and all that good stuff. Proper, we need Greenlaw back. Him and Warner flying around the field is a game changer. It really hurt us in the Super Bowl. Oh, it's big, man. I mean, you felt it last week, Proper. There was the wheel route that I don't think the Rams were running it to Kyron Williams. It might have been Kyron Williams, might have been Rivers, can't remember. But then Devondre Campbell got matched up on him, and Devondre had to run it on the wheel. And that's a play where Dre Greenlaw runs step for step with that guy down the field, gets his head turned back around, probably knocks the ball away, bare minimum. Devondre never gets his head around, gets beat by 3 yards down the football field. That's a play last week that play doesn't happen for the Rams. You guys probably don't lose that game. Say nothing of just him being a better run defender and all that. The one problem there too, though, comes back to Proper, like we see with some of these ACL injuries, like we talked about with Breece Hall, this affects the Achilles one too, especially having it that late in the year. Guys can get back at a certain quick timeline, but then they're really rarely ever back at that 100% spot immediately. It tends to take a little bit of that extra almost year to kind of get yourself back up to snuff. Dowsker says, holy crap, when was the last time a team won with a quarterback throwing 60 yards? It's been a while. It's been a bit of time, I'm sure. Maybe Tim Tebow, probably, was the last one. Snow Owl, all 22 called Stone Steve. Thoughts? Stone Steve? Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that, Snow Owl? I don't know what you mean by that. Cool Breeze, I called the Niners window closing at the end of last year. I've been proven right since they do not look good. It's been a struggle so far for them. I will say they're still dangerous. They haven't been put down yet. They got the win today, and that team can get healthier. You never know. Primo, thank you for the $5 donation, Primo. Very kind of you. Thank you for that. Hey, Brandon, it's been a minute. Hope all is well with you, bud. I'm doing great, man. We're rolling along this year, having a great start to the year in more ways than one. What are some keys to winning tomorrow? Great question. I think we start with a little bit of the game plan. I think begins defensively, Primo, because that's where you're walking into this light. So you've got to start with let's cover our weakness first before we get over to the strength, which is the offense. And I think stacking the box, I'll kind of replay this a little bit of what I ran at the start of the show today. Stack the box. Play with house money in this game, Primo. I think you could do that offensively and defensively, frankly, which is you come into this game. If you come out with a loss, it's no big deal. Nobody expects you to win this game, especially coming into it so light as you are from a personnel standpoint. So from that standpoint, don't be conservative. Let it ride, let it rip, let it roll. Trick plays, bring the blitz. Don't worry about the fact the defense gives us some points in this particular game, being that you're light out there. You're going to have to maybe manufacture some stuff, simulate some stuff to make it happen. So play with that house money. Be comfortable in that manner. Trust your lockdown corners. Man on the outside. I'd roll with Jameson Williams on Tariq Woolen, and I'd have him travel with Jameson Williams. And then I would have Devin Witherspoon on Amon St. Brown all game long. And I'd have those. That'd be my two matchups. I'd roll with it all day. And then I'd run stack boxes and blitzes on the front and see if they can hold, see if we can hold up. See if our guys in coverage can hold up. Run more 3-4 looks. Give yourself defensively more of an opportunity to have one extra body down there on the defensive line to deal with the run game, especially in base personnel situations, primo for the offense, or knowing running situations. Trust that 3-4 a little bit. Let the blitz flow, like I just said a second ago, like a mountain stream. Let that thing run. Blitz them. You get hit over the top, you get over the top. You've got an offense with that defense in the shape they are on the other side of it to get back on quick score strikes. You can put points up on the board on this defense. You may have to manufacture stops, defensively speaking. And then I think come back over to the offensive side of the ball. Grubby can't get greedy. You can't get too much into the pass-heavy stuff. You got to be aware of the load balance aspect of this, primo, which means staying committed to the running game. Manufacturing some short touches if the running game isn't working. So it can't be run our head into a wall. Okay, let's go deep shot city. If it's running your head in the wall, then it's got to be come back to the screen game. Come back to the throws out into the flat. Work some things to Laviska Shenault. Manufacture offense from a Grubb standpoint and make sure that you at the very least keep this play clock balanced in this game. Don't leave your defense to have to play 60 snaps with a light box, with a light depth a little bit as it stands right now walking into this. So offensively, I think you run conservatively unless you're really drawn to have to score the points here, primo. I think you're going to score points even just being patient and working your way and matriculating the ball up the football field. I think you'll put your share of points up on the board. But if they score some points on quick strike, if you get behind in this game, 10, 14 points, and you got it, then kind of all bets are off. Dial it up, let it rip, Grubby. But if you can kind of control this game, if you can keep it close into the fourth quarter, if you can, because I like that. If you trust yourself in the fourth quarter, Geno Smith had 2 fourth quarter comebacks in 2 years in that stadium. You put the game down the line in a game like this, and it comes down to that, I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. So it's a little bit more conservative offensively, I think, than we would be in other games. I think you got to be informed a little bit by where you're at defensively. You got to stay committed to the running game. And I think you got to attack that Lions team on the outside when they show you man looks. When Geno knows he's got mismatches on the outside with DK, JSN, or Lockett included on that, and then you're going to get some man-on-man situations, attack it constantly. Because I think the Lions are going to try to play a lot of zone instead. And, it's like a team trying to play left-handed. We typically play right-handed, but we're going to try to play left-handed because we know how much you beat the hell out of teams that try to play man coverage with the corners. You got the Lions in a bit of a pickle with that one. But those will be my keys, primo. It does start a little bit with the defense at the beginning of this a bit, I think, in how you're running. And that house money aspect of it, there's games you'd play close to the vest. There's games that you'd play a little bit more, let's just let this game kind of unfurl a little bit. Let's just see how it goes through 1-2 quarters and see where it ends up. And then there are those games where I think you go, okay, we're coming in this. We're the underdog. No one's counting on us to win this. If we do come out with a loss, not the biggest deal. We've set the stage still for the rest of this year to be very successful. So let's let it rip. It's the old, if you're going to go down swinging, if you're going to go down swinging. Why not? Right? Thank you for that $5 donation, man. Go Hawks. And those would be my main keys. Chip Hutchinson. He's the only guy on that defensive line that can really hurt you from the line standpoint. So commit to running the chips, commit to running some double teams, commit to being, creative and kind of making a frustrating day for him. Use the screen game. Keep that pass rush a little bit at bay. Don't let him just be able to pin his ears back there on that side of things. Thank you for the donation, though. Seahawks blue and green. Campbell loves going for it on 4th down. Hope the defense has this in mind. I'm sure they do. You'd be kind of silly if you didn't at this point, because you're right, he does it so much, and he's at the forefront of it as much as anybody in the NFL. Owen Carter says, us Seahawks fans are spoiled with you and Brendan feeding us media. Good work and good job representing us on the roundtable. Well, thank you, Owen. And I agree. Brendan does great work out there, and I've had a great time being able to work with him these past couple of years and covering the Hawks, and it's very exciting for us to be able to cover them at a time where we're able to both, cover them and both also understand that a team's doing things intelligently all the way around, not partially around, right? But that you actually see a team doing things that's smart all the way around. There's no guarantees to becoming successful in this sport. Luck is a lot that's involved in it, but there are things you can take care of that aren't about luck. And the Hawks have done more to take care of those things in the background over the past couple of years to make guys like us that cover this team just that much more excited to do it, because it's hard when you're covering the team and you know that they're doing something wrong and they're going to continue to do that thing wrong. And have been in that position a little bit at times in doing this channel. Thank you, though. Very kind of you to say on that. Grandizer Brandon, question. Is there a Seahawks newspaper that you used to subscribe to and get in the mail that is no longer in circulation? Time frame circa since you became a fan till current. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's there were 3 newspapers back in the day that I would always try to get to reading back when we were on the newspaper front. And that was always going to be the Herald, the Times, and it was going to be the Times was the most important. The PI was the second, the Post-Intelligencer, and then you had the Everett Herald was your third. Being that I was up on the northern end of the corridor there, up in the kind of more Everettish side of things, so you didn't get as much access to the Tacoma Tribune. But then once you obviously got to more of the online world, you were able to do all those 3 and the Tacoma Tribune side of it. And then, if you're ever going into your workday, you blow a workday out. We all know we do this, first 45 minutes of workday. It's okay, let me get through all 3 newspapers and see what's being written about today and being covered on that. And then I've been informed. Now I can get on to the work. So those used to be my go-tos back in the day. Oh, you think about how limited media was back in the day compared to now. How much, you really scoured through what was. If there was something there, you read through it usually like a couple times back in the day. Now we just have an endless, endless wave of stuff. Times was my joint though. Times did the best stuff back in the day. PI was number 2. And Tacoma Tribune probably had Everett Herald beat. They just weren't. I just never got a chance to read that one as much. Sean Edwards says, keys to the game sound good. Hawks Nest. Thank you, Sean. I just tried to give it a little bit of thought because I've been worried like you guys are when I heard this news about Mafe and Uchenna being out. I just go, oh, how do we come out of this with a win on this? What has to happen for this to occur? Because it becomes a little more specialized at that point. Snow Owl, will the second, third string defensive line succeed tomorrow night? I think that they'll hold up the line well. I don't think that it's going to be a sieve or that we're just going to allow endless amounts of points to come rolling on through. I think that they're going to do their job and give the offense a chance. So, I think it's a high scoring game. It'll probably come down to where the offense can be just super explosive, more of kind of, we outscore them more than it is that the defense gets the stops, but that the defense does just enough. It would feel like that kind of game if we're going to come away with a win. So, Al, why isn't Grubb's offense utilizing more pre-snap motion? Seahawks are near the bottom in offensive pre-snap motion. I don't have a good reasoning for it, Snow Al. You were, through the first week of the season, you were number 2 in pre-snap motion against Denver. So it's been a recent two-week dip that I guess we've seen in their use of that at that point. And I don't have a really good explanation because that's something that Grubb uses very widely at UW. So, and again, used it in week 1. So I would expect it's a sample size thing that by the time we get to the end of the year, this will be a team that's one of the higher users of pre-snap motion when it gets all said and done. Radu, this feels like a game Lockett will thrive in. 100 yards incoming. Well, he went off last year, to your point, Radu. So whether it's JSN, Lockett, DK, they don't have the number of guys on the outside, especially with Branch down, that can hold up. I mean, you can make an argument that you have a mismatch against all 3 of the corners that they're going to line up against your receivers, that your receivers are better than that cornerback aligned opposite them. Hell, put Bobo into the mix and you can say your 4 beat their 4 every single time. That Gino can drop back and he'll have at least 2 options wide open if he's looking right. Proper says, I think you guys should make throwbacks Jermaine uniforms. I agree, Proper. I think most of the fan base feels that way. They may eventually make that transition to it, but we definitely feel that way. Pre-snap motion could benefit the poor offensive line, says Noel. You're right. I'm with it. As I say, I got no excuses for why they can't use it. There's no reason not to use it. And hopefully it's something that starts to build up with time with Grubb. I think just maybe it's a match, a game-by-game thing where he just saw with the Patriots defense and this defense in particular, it wasn't as useful a means to exploit. But I'd expect sooner or later it will be. They'll be rolling. Cobras, did you watch any of the Gruden Geno video? Laughing out loud. A little bit. I like Gruden, but I mean, it gets into a little bit of the performative stuff too much for me at times with it, where I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'd like Gruden a little bit more and just get me into just the stuff, right? Get me into the real meat and potatoes here. A little bit less of the window dressing and more of meat and potatoes. Righty, why isn't Lamea and Jerome getting any snaps, at least a couple? They're not better options than what we're trotting out there. Radu, I mean, I'm very often asked about this with like Haynes and everything else, and I think that I run a little different than most fans run with this. There are certain situations where I'll say this guy should be playing. There's no reason this guy isn't playing. Why aren't we running with this guy? This is so silly. But it's going to be very rare for me to be able to come up and say that, because when you say, hey, Haynes should be playing, or we say, hey, Lamea should be playing, or Jerome should be playing, then we're also saying that, in a way, we're saying we have a better view than the coaching staff does of who is the best player to be playing on this team at this time. And there are places I'm perfectly happy to step on coaching staff and front office's feet to say, you guys aren't running this the right way in this direction at this point. But when they are operating with so much more knowledge and information about the performance of these players that we're looking at, Radu, in the practice time, in the training camp, diving into the film over and over again on the All-22, what they're seeing, their takeaway from it is that whether it's Jerome or Lamea or Haynes, these guys are not ready. They're not as good as what we're putting out there right now. As bad as what we're putting out there is bad. They're not right now, as young players, as young developing players, as good as that. And I do trust in that, because I just don't see the upside to a coaching staff choosing to go out there and trot out a bad offensive line. Especially this coaching staff that seems to be, as a difference maybe from the old, of really trying at the forefront to think smartly in their approach. Stoyan, hey Brandon, do you think we will be able to stop the run without Williams and Murphy? If we can't stop it, we're going to be in for a long night. I think it's the big key to the game. I've said that I think that the team that comes out maybe rushing the most in this game is the team that ends up winning the game. It's hard to predict one way or another on that, though, Stoyan. You're down not only those two guys, you're down 5/8 of your front seven. So that being the case, I think that making any kind of prediction on this one's going to be a hard one to do. The Lions run the ball really well. You're light and vulnerable where they want to run. On paper, I'd say you're probably going to give up your share of running yards. If I've got to be pushed to make a guess on it, but I would say it's very hard to predict at this point. Proper, Niners are wearing throwbacks against the Hawks. Hawks should wear theirs too. We are wearing our throwbacks, Proper. So it'll be prepared to be excited. Prepared, excited. Brandizer, thank you, Brandon. Yes, I used to subscribe to Dolphins paper off and on since the 80s till 2000s. It was pricey, though. Great news that fans would not be privy to on the West Coast. Slim pickings. Yeah, there's something about the old days of grabbing the paper and the feel of it in your fingers and pulling them apart and going through the different sections, and a little bit lost now when you go online. The old days. Sean Edwards, back in the day, Fantasy Football League manager, Monday morning newspaper box scores. That's a mouthful. Jesus, Sean. To compile FB game results in the smoking section of the WWU Viking Union cafeteria. Woo, that was a long sentence, man. Holy hell. Fantasy Football League manager, Monday morning newspaper box scores to compile fullback football game results in the smoking. Oh my goodness. That's where 3 hours in my eyes go sometimes cross on some of these. It's fun though, man. Having the physical paperback in your hand, there's something to that. I'm just romantic. Boy, my cat is just not having it tonight. I'm trying to keep her off, and she's just like, she wants to face hug. Okay, come on. There we go. There we go. That's what you want to be held. All right, we're going to wrap on up here, folks, as I wanted to keep this short tonight. We ended up going 3 hours, so we'll probably get the last couple questions on in here as my cat's going, you need to be done, Dad. You need to be done. I need you to give me all the time here. Feed me. I've been saying this since we lost the Super Bowl. I've been saying this since they lost the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is overrated. He has limited arm strength. He's accurate. Yep, I agree. I feel the same way on that, Feed me. I said that same thing at the same time, even when he's in the Super Bowl going off, is that it's very much built on the supporting cast. But, we come back to, again, that supporting cast being such a big factor in the quarterback's performance, be it a Jared Goff, be it a Jalen Hurts, be it even a guy like a Geno Smith to a degree, and that he's been affected in that way. He's been able to perform even absent having that supporting cast at times, which is why I'm so high on Geno. But we always keep coming back around, don't we, to the supporting cast, Phoebe, and that it's such a big weighted factor here on how these quarterbacks play, whether or not they succeed or not. And Jalen has definitely had that in his back pocket. And now that it's starting to falter and not have that in full, you're not seeing him playing at his best either. Wearing throwbacks during the 49er game, holy hand grenade, yes. Brody says, I don't think we will win, but I'm going to put $20 in the Seahawks anyway. I love it, Brody. That's called loyalty right there. That's called team faith. Team faith. Brody says, fair point, but when do you play them then? You didn't draft them. You didn't draft them to be backups, most likely. Obviously, when your starters go down, but where else, in your opinion? I don't want to play people just for the sake of playing them, Radu. I'm not a fan of just throw this guy out there because this ain't working, so just try this. Just do something different. There's maybe times to apply that thinking and model. I think that Radu, there's an impatience from fan bases when it comes to development. And fans, Radu, have a kryptonite like drive to shift away from development. Development is like, the horrible, awful thing. Kitty, you've got to stop, please. You got to give me like 5 minutes and I'll wrap it up, okay? I know, okay? Thank you. And we got still like 10 other people. We got a question. I'm going to kind of put a button on this one at this point though, folks, as I just don't want to blow out tonight, as we're going to be going another 6 hours tomorrow, and I got another 15 streams set to do this week. So we'll kind of finish it up on this kind of note on this one, Radu. Every position in football is different in development and how you got to approach the position and how you got to look at the position. I say this about this sport in that what I love about it so much, Radu, is the complication of it, the details of it, the layers of it. It's not like any other sport where there's a simplification that you can apply to it. Hey, my shooting guard can't shoot a shot anymore. Let me bring in the backup and see if he can shoot some shots off the bench for a given time. You can't apply that same kind of model to football. It's a model of like what I say about basketball having like the influence like with the quarterbacks and people looking at them like these like Michael Jordan, LeBron players that are just throw it out to him on the wing and let him just work his magic. It's a different sport in that way. And so when you go to offensive line, it's not the way I deal with cornerback or the way I deal with receiver or the way I deal with running back is the way I would deal with an offensive line. An offensive line, in the breeding of offensive line success, has got to have cohesion and chemistry. You don't get cohesion and chemistry by having the offensive line constantly shuffling parts, right? It's one of the things that we lamented here for years with Coach Carroll and wanting to move through offensive linemen over the course of the game and flip guys in and flip guys out. I can't understand this enough, again, guys, in over almost 40 years of watching football. When an offensive line is at its best, it's not you flipping and flopping parts out. It's you giving it the time to develop and get good and understand each other and be able to have that almost nonverbal communication where you're on the same page. How do you get there if you're flexing Michael Jarrell out for five reps? How do you get there if you're flexing out Haynes out there for 10 reps? You don't. You're just sort of throwing chaos at the situation. And I just can't think of recent offensive lines that have performed well, flipping and flopping out guys. That's more of what a drowning man is doing who just doesn't know how to swim, is what that is to me. There's a lot of kicking, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of splashing, there's a lot of movement, but your head isn't staying above the water. I think we've got to, in my opinion on this run, Radu, go back to the coaching staff has 99% more information on this detail than we do. We have the games and we have preseason. That is the all of what we have of a view on these offensive linemen and making our determinations. That is it. We're saying that's that guy don't look good. Get the other guy in. Well, based on what? Well, I had Haynes a little bit in preseason, and then he was out there for 3 snaps. But even in that one, it's kind of weird to me. Because people will say, well, get Haynes out there. And they ran Haynes out there in the Patriot game. He almost got Geno killed. And then Geno was not able to hit the 9 route over the top when he's in there. I mean, he's kind of showing you in that exact moment, here's why you don't have Haynes out there. You think it's bad with Bradford. It can be worse. So it's the part that, with me on it, it's the part I think I'll probably grow to, that will become more frustrating for me with time with this year, a little bit from Hawk fans' perspectives. Because there is a place that you're operating from when you say, put this guy in, put that guy in. You're in saying that, then you're saying, my coaching staff is dumb. They're morons. They don't have a way of properly understanding their offensive line talent or who the best starting 5 guys should be on this team. I have places where I'm happy to go after front offices and coaching staffs. When it comes to draft day, I'm perfectly happy to throw out my opinion and say, this guy wasn't good and that guy wasn't good. Why? Because I got all the same tape that the front office and the coaching staff have on that particular player. I'm not operating with a 99% deficiency in my assessment of the situation. And I think that if it's not 99%, it's 95% that the view we've had of these offensive linemen is this small view, and the coaching staff has this big, huge view. And I'm not an appealed authority guy. You know that with me, Rod, dude. That's not my way I want to be with this. But this is one of those places I think we have to kind of appeal to the authority of the situation and understanding that it's not in their best interest to trot out the shit offensive line. It's not in their best interest to put out the worst version of the offensive line out there. The coach's motivation is not going to be pulled to do that. It won't be. So I think we have to fight this urge, as hard as I know this is in the fan base right now. I think we got to fight this urge of get the next offense. Haynes, get this guy out there. Get this guy out there. We got to win. Come on, get him out there. Get him out. Come on. Again, Bradford gave up a sack in this game. Get him out there. Come on. I'm not going to be in that spot. So you guys are free to, and I'll support you guys on it. And like I say on this, I'm not expecting anybody to be an echo chamber on this part, but the question was about what I thought on this and what I feel on this. And I'm going to be very consistent on this, where I'm not going to be telling you guys that we got to go to this offensive lineman or go to that guy. It operates from that first standpoint. Backtrack it up. It first operates from the standpoint of me saying my coaching staff is being a moron when it comes to dealing with this thing here. And then I'll be happy to do that if the coaching staff shows that they have a blind spot to the offensive line. But when it's 4 games into the current regime, that's too early to make that kind of assessment on. There were things I could make assessments on Coach Carroll and the way that he operated, but I had 14 years of data. And he was pretty consistent both for the good and the bad in what he would do from a direction and principle standpoint when it came to how he managed and dealt with the football team. With McDonald, I don't think that we're as ingrained in understanding that process. And so we've got to do a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And again, you're not going to get your best offensive line by flipping and flopping out parts. You've got to allow for the 5 to get in lockstep and then see what you got then. And if we get to the end of the year with Bradford and he still is not developed at that point, then we can go Haynes all day at that point. You got year 2 of Haynes, players make the biggest leap into year 2, then we can talk about Haynes all day at that point. But I am going to be in the camp of let's give it through the year on Bradford to see what he can develop into. He needs this time. And I've been very consistent on saying this since day one on this, both good and bad for Bradford. So I know it's a push, by the way, Radu. You're not the only one. There's a ton of people where there's a push on this. I can't get to that place on it because I can't backtrack it in that way. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up on that. I really thank you guys for checking in tonight. Some great questions as well. Great question, Radu, by the way, because again, I think this is, even though I'm pushing back heavily on it, this is something that's at the forefront of Seahawks fans' minds. So this is, I know, something that's pushing, but hopefully I'm articulating in the right way here as to why I just can't go quite down that road where I've got to say, we got to hit the e-brake on this one, give it time. Because I do really trust as well in the benefits of giving the cohesion time to set. In that, okay, well, we're feeling the pain of it in week 2 and week 3 and week 4 and week 5, but then we'll feel the benefits of it by sticking with it into week 12, week 13, week 14. I may be proven wrong on this, but that's where I do come down to on this line situation and my belief of what will be the right remedy for what has been ailing us and ailing us for a while. Because I know on the surface of it, it looks like, well, same old problems, same old issues on the line. But I think there were actually a little bit of the slightly different issues this particular year. We'll see, man. We'll see where it goes. All right. We'll wrap it up on that side of it. Again, thank you to all of you guys. Primo, God's Gang, Old School Seahawk, Y2K, Scott Gunther, War Chief, multiple times over, Long Live the King, Varmint, Randall, McDaniel, Jordan, Mumbles. Appreciate all of you guys for all of your support. Rodu, I had a dream that Bobo was an elite guard, and we put him in. One can have a dream. Hey, man, maybe at least tight end. I don't know. Maybe at least tight end. Well, thank you guys again for all of your donations and support today to the channel. You guys allow me to do what I do here. It is the support and the donations in this channel. It is not ad revenue. It is not sponsorship. It is that those things help, but it's what you guys do on that side of it that gets me here and allows me to do what I get to do on this, which is cover this very fun Seahawks team that is off to a 3-0 start. If you were not hyped up about this team, if you were sort of waiting in reserve, if you were sort of sitting back in the cut, well, this team should get you excited where they stand right now. I don't know if they win or not tomorrow night, but we are on the right road and the right path. And as you look across the NFL landscape, as you look across the NFC, it's looking juicy right now. It's looking right to go take our opportunity, to go take our chance right now. We thought we had to wait a year. We might not have to wait a year. With the way the schedule's set up, where we could be positioned, especially come out the dub with this game, your Seahawks are locked and loaded to be able to go make a run this year right now. So start raising some of those hopes of expectations. Don't have to look so low for this upcoming first year at McDonald because they're off to a roaring start. And I think this team's going to be positioning themselves very well here for this upcoming season. I want to thank the sponsor of the show, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring the show. You can utilize my code right now by clicking down to the top of the description link section below. If you click right there to Underdog Fantasy site, use my code NEST, and they're matching 2 for 1 right now. So $100, you get $50 back. $200, you get $100 back. $300, you get $150 back. All the way up to $2,000, $100,000 back on your first deposit. Great ongoing parlays to put together right now with this NFL season. You can still get into weekly fantasy. That's a weekly fantasy, new fantasy team every week. You don't have, if you got your fantasy team stuck here, you can kind of refresh it anew. There are some limitations that apply here in the state of Washington, but if you are in a casino in the state of Washington, you can use the app in full. But use my code NEST or click that link down in the description section below, and they will give you a 2 for 1 on that matching. Just some great picks you can get on. Baseball playoffs, hop in on that, basketball round, a lot of stuff to get into. Put some great little picks together. Last 2 other quick notes. We got the Hawks Nest Clips channel fully up and running right now. That's clips being taken from these live stream shows and some extra upper, little just small uploads that might not be as much prime channel stuff over there on the Hawks Nest Clips channel. So if you just search Hawks Nest Clips on YouTube, you can find me over there on that side of it. We also got the store here cooking right below me right now. We've got it connected here to the YouTube account. So if you're looking for any kind of Hawks Nest swag, you can get that right down there below. Thank you guys today for watching. Hit, if you could for me, that like button on the way out the door. I will be back tomorrow right about 5 o'clock on the dot. We'll do a little 15, 20, 25 minute pregame, and then we will be ready to go to see if our Seattle Seahawks can shock this nation, continue out to a 4-0 start, set the table, set the stage for them to start to put in their sight division title, and maybe even, do I dare say it? Maybe even dare I say it? A bye. We won't dream that big yet. Let's keep our sights set on the division. We'll just start out with that. Thank you guys tonight for watching, though. I really appreciate you on that for doing that, and you guys have a great night. I'll be back in less than 24 hours with some scintillating play-by-play, but both me and Pumpkin let you know. Can we give him a Go Hawks, Pumpkin? You gonna go Hawks? She's all quiet now. She's all loud when I'm talking, but now she's going to be all quiet when I'm not. Okay. I see how it goes, Pumpkin. I see how you're playing it. All right, well, I thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon. Till that time, don't you forget, don't you ever forget, Go Hawks.